The couple sat at the bus stop, not paying attention to the people scurrying around. The spoken phrase, "let's break up," froze in the air. The guy let out a heavy sigh, continuing to stare at one point. He turned his gaze to the girl sitting next to him, but she didn't seem to be looking at him on purpose. The guy carefully took her hand, trying to attract attention. He admitted that things had been difficult for them lately, but it was all over now. He didn't think they should cut things off like that. Cheha interrupted him with a short single word, "No." The girl assured that it would be better for both of them. She believed that the guy had already suffered because of her. Cheha was sure that it was better for them to continue this life separately. The guy was unhappy with where it all came down to. He believed that the girl was not herself. He didn't understand how she could leave him at all. If Cheha only knew why he did all this. The girl calmly replied that she understood that the guy needed a little time. She slowly rose to her feet, preparing to leave, thereby ending this conversation. The girl turned to him, saying that she believed in the guy. The guy immediately jumped to his feet. Tears ran down his cheeks as he tried to shout to Cheha, but the bus with the girl inside continued to move forward, not paying attention to the guy. If he only knew that he wouldn't see Cheha for a long time, he wouldn't have let her go so easily. The room was a mess. Things are scattered on the floor, a bottle is lying near the bed, light barely breaks through the closed curtains. The guy looked at the phone screen, trying to figure out what day it was. Getting up, Minso realized that he was tired and thought about doing something new. The guy sat down at the table, moving the laptop closer to him, placing it on top of the lying books and magazines. He tried to concentrate, but the words spoken by Cheha kept popping up in his head. "It will be better for both of us. It's better for us to continue this life alone." The guy remembered how she smiled sweetly goodbye, saying that she believed in him. Minso abruptly swept things off the table onto the floor, succumbing to a rush of emotions. Along with the books, a photograph of them together fell to the floor. On it, they hug, smiling happily. Minso graduated from university 2 years ago. After graduation, he came up with all sorts of excuses due to the overwhelming feeling of insecurity. The guy boasted loudly, saying that he just needed to get into government service. Minso drank the contents of the glass in one gulp, realizing that this was never his dream. The guy had no desire to achieve his goals, and he felt helpless every time he sat down to read his books. But Chai-ha never stopped believing in him. Minso was sure that the girl was ashamed of him. The guy froze, staring in surprise at his computer screen. Minso was very surprised by the discounted price of 2,001. In his opinion, it was too cheap. The guy looked again at the screen from which a sweet, smiling girl was looking at him. Minso admitted that she was quite beautiful. He thought that this was an obvious scam, a typical story in which a girl marries a prince and becomes a lady, and they just make money from a child's imagination. The guy leaned back in his chair and let out a heavy sigh. He needed to study. Minso admitted that he felt relieved during the game and decided that the main character was probably very sad because it's hard to smile all the time. The guy looked again at the princess, who continued to smile cheerfully and wave her hand, wondering if she was really that happy. Minso decided that it might be stupid, but he liked the game, so he decided that they could take his money and paid for the purchase. A bright picture of the game immediately appeared on the screen, which even seemed to glow. Minso was surprised to note that the graphics in the game were much better than he initially expected. The guy suddenly froze in shock, continuing to look at the screen and not understanding what was happening. A wind rose in the room, fluttering the curtains as Minso continued to sit in front of the computer in surprise. The guy found himself in some kind of forest, surrounded by trees and bright flowers, while a notification appeared on the screen that the download was complete. The girl smiled cheerfully, raising her head to the sky and asking Leonid to also look in that direction. She was confident that it looked like they could make some good money. Noticing that the guy was not answering, the girl gently touched his shoulder, asking if he could hear her. Minseo spun around, surprised that she was addressing him. The girl cheerfully asked what was happening to him, while the guy did not understand who he was and why she called him Leo. Minso noted that the girl seemed incredibly familiar to him. The girl herself, meanwhile, decided that the guy was back to his jokes. A system notification appeared saying that Lena's upbringing was beginning. The guy read it again, stuttering in surprise. A bead of sweat appeared on his face as Minso realized that he had hit the game. Meanwhile, the girl asked Leo again what happened. The system notified that the first meeting with Lena achievement had been achieved. Minseo was dumbfounded that he would have to raise her. The guy stood in front of the mirror, looking at his new appearance in surprise. It was still difficult for him to grasp the fact that he was actually in the game. The door opened and a joyful Lena ran inside, inviting Leo to go pick mountain berries. The guy was surprised that this had to be done again while the girl was already pushing him towards the door. Minso remembered that according to the game, Lena and Leo are childhood friends. The guy suddenly realized that this body remembers the time the guys spent together. Lena carefully plucked the bush, picking out, as Leslie says, berry by berry. Minseo looked at the ever-smiling girl, admitting that thanks to her, he was able to learn a lot over the past couple of days. This was the very center, the border territory of the kingdom, a world in which a priest could heal wounds, and Lena wanted to become like that. The girl raised her head, asking the guy in surprise why he was looking at her like that. Leo immediately turned away sharply, muttering a short, "Nothing." The problem was that the guy had to raise Lena to be a princess. The whole point of the game was to turn the main character into a princess, so that was the guy's main goal. But Minso had no idea how to make Lena a princess, because there weren't even princes around here. The guy began to help pick the berries, deciding that he needed to find the prince first. The girl looked out the window, sadly noting that it looked like it was going to rain, so it was better not to go outside today. The woman asked Lena if she was going to eat. She replied that she had already eaten and would soon go to work. The woman warned her to be careful. The man agreed with her, adding that Lena had already been working all week. He asked the girl if she was going back to the shop in an hour. Lena thought for a second. Her face became gloomy and thoughtful. But after a moment, the girl half smiled, assuring that everything was fine. Opening the door, Lena loudly informed Aunt Anne that she had arrived. The woman was pleasantly surprised that the girl visited today. Tying her hair with a ribbon, Lena asked if Aunt Anne had kneaded the dough yet. The girl put on an apron so as not to dirty her dress and began to work with the dough. Lena couldn't help but notice that Leo seemed strange lately. Of course, the girl admitted that he was usually not very talkative, but in recent days there was not even a smile on his face. Lena had the feeling that the guy was completely lost in his own thoughts. The girl continued to knead the dough when she suddenly stopped and looked closely at her palm. Lena suddenly thought about when she stopped holding hands with the guy. The girl assumed that this happened when Leo said that he wanted to become a priest because they should not tie the knot. It suddenly seemed to the girl that she and Leo were much closer when they were younger. The woman warmly thanked the girl for her help and asked her to come again. Lena assured that they would see each other again. Before the girl had time to cross the threshold of the house, someone called out to her, forcing her to stop. The guy waved at her friendly, asking if she had finished working yet. Lena didn't understand why he always appears when she goes out, but she confirmed that she was already finished with everything. The guy gallantly announced that he would see the girl off. She had no choice but to smile sweetly and thank her. The guy noted that something bothered Lena the day before yesterday in the cathedral. The girl attended church to learn to become a priest, and she devoted the rest of her time to work. The priests were wise and patient, and the girl kept wondering if she could become one of them. Lena suddenly announced that she would go and quickly walked forward, leaving the surprised guy behind. The girl had a gloomy look. All she could think about was how much she missed Leo. The guy stared at the ceiling, realizing that a month had already passed since he was in the game, but at first he hoped that this was just a dream. Minso still could not get rid of the vague memories that continued to visit him. The guy was thinking about whether he should return, but did not see much point in this because all he did was sprinkle on books. Minso thought that maybe he should try to get used to his new life. The guy suddenly jumped out of bed, hearing some strange rustling. The door opened and an unknown man appeared behind it, whose face was hidden by the hood of his cloak. The guy froze in fear, not understanding who it was. The man took off his hood and Minso immediately noted their resemblance to Leo. The man told him to follow him, and the guy was surprised to realize that it was his father. His hands touched the ground as the man said a prayer, announcing that he was giving the heart and head of the victim to the god Barbados. Raising his hands to the sky, he prayed that God would accept his sacrifice and protect his family. Minso also bowed, standing behind the man, deciding that his father must be a hunter. Without straightening his back, the man ordered his son to work on the blood, which greatly shocked him. The father frowned at the guy, hearing a frightened cry from him. Minso laughed cheerfully, saying that he had not gone out for a long time and had already completely forgotten everything. The man leaned over the guy, glaring at him with a frown, and Minso was afraid that he had noticed something. However, the man moved on and the guy breathed out a sigh of relief, following him with his gaze. The father bent over the carcass, telling him that first he needed to wrap the legs with rope. Minso began to follow the instructions, surprised at his every movement. He did all this for the first time, but Leo's body remembered everything. Meanwhile, the father closely watched his son. Suddenly, a cheerful, girlish voice was heard calling Leo. The guy asked Lena what happened. Nervously fiddling with the belt of her bag, the girl asked Leo if he wanted to take a little walk. Lena said that she just wanted to pick mushrooms and smiled sweetly at the guy. Minso looked worriedly at his father, who was busy with his own affairs. Sighing, he still agreed to Lena's proposal. After a short walk, they sat down in the forest, enjoying the silence and solitude among the trees. The guy looked at the suddenly quiet girl, fearing that something was wrong. Lena asked if he remembered, and the guy scaredly asked what exactly. The girl recalled how 10 years ago the priest cured her wounded father. From that day on, Lena decided that she would become a priest and help people. In a quiet voice, the girl said that she was thinking about quitting. The guy was very surprised by this unexpected news. With a smile, Lena explained that she just wanted to live like Leo, walk in the forest. The guy suddenly froze, blushing from unexpected embarrassment. Moving closer to Leo, the girl asked if he wanted to become a priest, or perhaps he did not want her to become a priest. The guy didn't want her to leave him, but if it would be better for her, then she should leave. In truth, Leo had liked the girl for a long time. The guy said that when he was returning from a mountain hunt, he also hoped to meet Lena. The girl was pleased that he also wanted to meet. They continued to sit next to each other when Lena suddenly covered the guy's hand with her palm. They turned, looking into each other's eyes and enjoying the privacy. They returned home when dusk had fallen, still holding hands. Approaching the village, the guy suddenly froze, not understanding what kind of strange feeling visited him. Priest Leslie was very happy to see the girl and stated that he was looking forward to her very much. Lena was very surprised by his appearance and immediately tore his palm from the guy's hand, as if nothing had happened. The man pointed to his comrades and said that the priest would take Lena to the cathedral. The man was very happy at heart from this, while the guy and the girl were frozen in amazement. Lena was very surprised when she heard that they wanted her to become a priest. The woman said that the reverend spoke very highly of the girl. They are on their way to the monastery and decided to ask if Lena would like to go with them. The woman assured that she would recommend the girl as a servant. Lena's mouth dropped open at this news. The girl could not believe that she could really become a priest. The guy didn't even suspect that Lena would one day have the opportunity to leave this village. The girl joyfully turned to Leo, conveying her father's words that she could become a nun. The guy sadly noted that this also happened in Lena's life. He decided that if we were talking about a monastery, then somewhere nearby there would be a royal palace, and there would be a prince there. The guy pursed his lips angrily, realizing that there the girl could meet the prince. After thinking a little, Leo decided that if Lena was a novice in the monastery, then she would most likely never be able to see the prince. The guy had long ago lost hope of making her a princess. But he thought that if Lena left, then the game and this measured, quiet life would end. But he did not want to return to his life in reality, where it was too difficult for him. Lena, meanwhile, could hardly squeal with joy, continuing to repeat to Leo about the words of the Holy Father. The guy looked at the girl longingly. He believed that she would only be happy if she stayed here. Suddenly, Lena fell silent and took Leo's hand again. She thanked the priest for his kindness, but said that she wanted to stay. The man was stunned. He believed that this was a wonderful opportunity to be baptized. The guy felt something click in his head when he heard about baptism, because Lena had already mentioned it. Divine power can only be received from someone who already has it within themselves. This is called baptism. By performing baptism, the minister loses more than half of his divine power, so they are ready to perform this rite only on promising novices. The man, with a gentle smile on his lips, said that now the girl has the opportunity to decide whether she will become a priest with divine power or a simple nun. He touched the star on his chest, adding that the most important thing is that the girl devote her heart to the Lord and invited her to think again. The woman said that they were leaving tomorrow at dawn, and if Lena suddenly changed her mind, then she would need to find the woman before dawn. The saint left, but the guy and the girl remained standing, holding hands and looking after them. The guy suddenly became sad. He had no idea what to do. Len resolutely told Leo that she wasn't going anywhere. She assured the guy that she was happy with him and she didn't need anything else in life. Leo was sad that he did not let Lena fulfill her dream just for his own comfort. He clipped her wings. The guy suddenly rushed forward, tightly squeezing the girl in his arms. Without letting Lena out of his arms, he promised that he would definitely make her happy. He assured that the girl would never regret staying, not paying attention to the tears that flowed down his face. Lena immediately hugged him back happily, smiling widely. After retelling the story, Leo told his father that he and Lena wanted to get married after the autumn harvest. The man was silent, only occasionally taking a sip of beer from his mug. The guy didn't understand why he was silent. Of course, his father was a man of few words, but still his son was going to get married. Abruptly placing the mug on the table with a crash, the man stood up and walked away from the table. Turning, he threw a small bag in front of the guy. Leo didn't understand what it was. The man said that he had saved some money from selling dried meat and tanned leather and wanted to give it to them for the wedding. Unable to contain his smile, the guy asked when only his father managed to do this. The man sat down at the table again and continued drinking beer as if nothing had just happened. Leo looked at the bag of money again and thanked his father for his concern. The bells rang loudly in the temple while the guy nervously shifted from foot to foot at the altar. Lena walked along a path of petals. Flowers were also woven into her hair, and the girl had a large, beautiful bouquet of lilies in her hands. The guy stood with his elbows on the wall and listened with a frown as everyone praised Lena and her appearance. The newlyweds were already standing at the altar when the man suddenly announced that he had a gift for Lena. The girl was a little surprised to receive a gift from the monk. The man insisted and handed Lena a book on theology. The monk wished that God would be with the girl, giving her a gift. Lena was so moved by this act that she even had tears in her eyes. Wiping away a tear that never fell, the girl admitted that she was very grateful to the monk. Leo called out to the girl, extended his hand and beckoned her to come to him. When the bride and groom stood before the altar again, the priest began his sermon, asking the Lord to sanctify the path for these loving hearts. After the priest declared the couple born in the eyes of God, the crowd burst into applause. Lena immediately threw herself on Leo's neck, loudly declaring how much she loved him. The guy laughed cheerfully, about to answer her in kind, but he was interrupted. The system notified that Lena got married and congratulated the player on this. Suddenly, the church was empty, and a moment later the girl herself disappeared, leaving the guy standing alone. Everything around seemed to glitch and disappear, while the guy stubbornly tried to call the girl. The system thanked the player for playing Raising Lena. Character characteristics and a notification about the end of the marriage to childhood friend storyline appeared. The guy stood there, dumbfounded. He didn't understand what was going on. He was sure that he was Leo, that this was not some kind of game. He did not understand who and why was playing with his life. The guy kept trying to call Lena, talking about how much he needed her. He suddenly stopped, as if coming to his senses and remembering Cheha. Minso suddenly realized that he needed to get out of here, but he had no idea how to do it. The system reported that the guy was unable to correctly complete the game Raising Lena, and therefore the game will be restarted. Minso did not believe that this was real. He shouted that this could not be, but no one heard him. The guy felt the ground disappear from under his feet, and he fell into the darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he was standing in a snowy clearing in ammunition and with a sword in his hands. Hearing someone call Leo, the guy was glad to be back again. He was sure that this time he would definitely succeed and headed towards Lena. The girl stated that she was the first to call him and asked what he was staring at, threatening that he could get punched in the face. The guy groaned quietly and grabbed his head, which was simply splitting from everything that was happening. He looked at his palm, trying to understand what was happening to him again. Suddenly, a snowball flew at the guy, smashing into his head with all its force, causing him to bend down and groan quietly again. The girl was unhappy and asked Leo why he was in the clouds. The guy noted that this girl was Lena, but completely different from the one he knew before. He looked around, trying to figure out where he was this time. There were only the two of them around, standing in a snowy clearing. Nearby, behind the fence, there were several dilapidated houses. Minso froze in surprise, realizing that he was in a completely different plot. In this game, where you need to help a girl become a princess, the player first chooses his father's profession, and the location of the action depends on who you choose. Now the guy was in the kingdom of Aston, one of the 7 kingdoms of the continent. There are 2 rulers in this fortress, the leader of the Varangians and the feudal lord. In this scenario, he was dealing with Lena Einar's daughter, Degorman, a great warrior and leader of the Einar clan. And the guy himself was Leo Dexter, the eldest son in the clan of great knights. Even though everything had changed dramatically from the previous scenario, the only consolation was that it was the same world and the same continent. At least this game is complete and without logical discrepancies. Looking at the book, the guy noted that the capital of the Holy Empire, Jerome, is really far away. The girl suddenly rushed inside, delighted that she was able to find Leo. The guy involuntarily flinched from her loud scream. He immediately began frantically putting the book back in its place, stuttering a little with excitement. He asked the girl what she was doing here, while Lena glared at him. The girl noted that Leo has been acting strange lately. She wondered if he had become sentimental, like a child, and loved reading books. Leo said that, in fact, he wants to go on a trip soon. Lena didn't understand where he suddenly had such a desire, to which the guy explained that he was thinking about what he would become if he couldn't be a knight. Lena firmly stated that this could not happen. The girl was absolutely sure that she and the guy would definitely be knights. Grabbing Leo's hand, she told him to stop this nonsense and go train. The guy realized that in this scenario, Lena has no other interest than becoming a knight. The guys went back out into the snowy clearing, getting ready for sword training. Leo decisively struck, but Lena was able to block it in time, preventing herself from being hit. The girl jumped to the side, causing the guy to freeze in surprise, waiting for the next action. The man was dissatisfied with Leo's reaction. He did not understand what kind of mannerism this was. He hit Leo on the back several times with a wooden sword, forcing the guy to pull himself together. He, trying to dodge, assured his father that he would try. The man warned that on the battlefield no one would wait for him to start trying and, throwing the sword on the ground, declared that that was enough for today. Squatting down next to Leo, Lena carefully asked what was wrong with him today. The guy was unhappy that he received the first number, which is why everything hurt him now. Lena swung her sword sharply, noting that only yesterday Leo knew how to do this. It was his strong point, so she didn't understand what was wrong with him today. The guy picked up the sword from the ground and repeated the movement after the girl, asking if this was the technique she meant. Lena noticed that Leo was succeeding, while the guy stared in surprise at the sword in his hands. Sitting at the dinner table and tearing a piece of meat from a chicken leg, the man asked again in surprise, not believing what he heard. He was very surprised by the news that Leo was having problems with fencing. Exhaling heavily, the man admitted that the guy seemed to have completely forgotten how to hold a sword in his hands. His interlocutor only laughed cheerfully, patted the man on the back, and said that he need not worry, suggesting that Leo was trying to develop some kind of style of his own. The man tried to object, but his interlocutor noted that this would only completely silence his future son-in-law. He turned to Leo, who was calmly chewing bread and not even listening to their conversation. The man just sighed heavily from this picture and asked Leo to call Lena, to which the guy happily agreed. Having already left the room, he frowned, remembering the words about his future son-in-law. He was surprised that this time he had to make Lena princess, despite the fact that she had already been promised to him as his wife. Minso no longer believed that this game could be completed at all. In the end, he would simply marry Lena and see this terrible ending again. He understood that he could not continue to relive this over and over again. He had to return home. A flushed Lena appeared around the bend, barely able to stand on her feet. The girl cheerfully asked Leo what he was doing here. At first, the guy wanted to anxiously rush to Lena to find out where she was going, but he stopped. He thought for a second, realizing that he still had no other way. The guy mentally apologized to Lena because he would have to be a scoundrel with her and break off the engagement. However, he grabbed the drunk girl by the arm, not allowing her to fall, and when he had already made up his mind, his whole undertaking was interrupted. The woman kindly asked Leo to take the girl to the room. He couldn't believe that this happened right now. The guy lightly shook the girl by the shoulders, urging Lenny to pull herself together. She looked at the guy in surprise, as if only now realizing that it was Leo. Grabbing his doublet, the girl admitted that Leo had been acting strange lately and offered him a drink so he could share everything with her. The guy stepped back in surprise, unable to hide the blush that appeared on his cheeks from their too close contact. Leo abruptly grabbed the girl by the hand, dragging the stunned Lena into the room. Because the guy pushed her too hard, the girl literally flew onto the bed. Leo sternly noted that Lena had already had too much beer and ordered her to get better sleep. The girl continued to lie on the bed, deeply surprised by everything that had happened. Lena hurriedly walked forward, leaving deep footprints in the snow, a satisfied smile shining on her face. The guy cheerfully greeted the approaching girl, and his companions sitting at the table followed his example. One of the guys was surprised that Lena was late and didn't even worry about it. The girl calmly replied that nothing could be done about the fact that she overslept. Taking care of her weapon, Lena noted with displeasure that it was all because of Leo. She didn't understand why he was behaving in a way he had never behaved before. Because of this, Lena could not fall asleep. Normal Leo never refused her. He was her kind, boring, gallant knight. But now his sword art has become different. Previously, the guy fenced the same way as Uncle Noel. Heavy, balanced blows, no gaps. And now he is ready to expose himself, but at the same time chop off your head. Not at all like a knight. Noticing the guy, Lena immediately called him over, asking Leo how he ended up here. The guy admitted that he thought his father would kill him and that's why he ran away. Lena was very surprised by this news. The girl cheerfully asked if Uncle Noel had given the guy a thrashing again. She noted that she also liked the new Leo. The guy froze, making some kind of unintelligible sound, again embarrassed by the sight of the girl. While he was trying to come up with some kind of intelligible answer, Lena informed the others that she and her fiancé would go first. The girl calmly took Leo's arm and he noted, a little upset, that she wasn't even offended after yesterday. Lena promised Leo that she would teach him everything and simply asked him to repeat after her. Looking at the girl's cheerful smile, the guy did not understand how he should force her to marry someone else. The guy stopped, looking around and trying to figure out where the beast went. Turning around, he immediately pointed his finger in the right direction, informing everyone that he had gone there. The huge boar froze in place, looking at the hunters with a look full of anger. Then the beast abruptly took off, galloping towards the men. They reacted instantly, throwing their spears into the battle. The men froze for a moment, looking at the beast lying on the snow with a weapon sticking out of it. The man laughed cheerfully, admitting that he had chosen an excellent groom. Noel is terrible at hunting, but his son is amazing. Lena asked Leo if he had ever hunted and why he was so good at it. The guy didn't answer. He just shrugged his shoulders mysteriously. A year has already passed since they came of age and joined the hunting party led by Dagerman. Thanks to the basics that the guy learned, it wasn't that difficult for him to adapt. Lena brushed off her question and immediately cheerfully stated that they would work for their reputation. Seeing that the couple was moving away, the man shouted after them so that they did not go far. The girl stopped when she heard someone calling her and turned back. The guy smiled contentedly, throwing a snowball at Lena's face. The girl grimaced with displeasure, feeling the snow pulling and flowing down her face. Lena angrily declared that Leo was a fool, but the guy just laughed contentedly in her face. His laughter was interrupted by a girl who hit Leo with a snowball right on his forehead. Lena stood up, raised her hand again and warned that there would be another snowball. Loading a snowball at Leo with all her might, the girl invited him to try to dodge it if he could. The guy asked the girl to wait, but she didn't listen, causing Leo to fall into the snow. Approaching the guy and giving him her hand so that he could get up, Lena asked if he was giving up. Having accepted the offered hand and trying to shake off the snow, the guy accepted defeat. They froze for a moment, staring at each other. Suddenly, something flew at Leo again, so quickly that he didn't even have time to react. The girl also didn't understand what it was. Huge footprints of some animal could be seen on the ground, and Lena walked confidently towards them. It seemed to her that there was something in that direction, but Leo asked her to wait a minute. The guy looked closely at the footprints in the snow. They led down, but most surprisingly, they were barely visible. He concluded that either the body of this animal is disproportionately small or it is a very dangerous animal. Lena offered to go and check. She did not regret letting the beast escape. Leo noted that it was dangerous, and it was better to report to the others. He sighed heavily and seemed to note to himself that it was never too late to return. The girl looked at Leo in surprise at first, but then agreed that caution would not hurt. Having seen this beast with his own eyes, the guy realized that it was the right choice. A mythical fox, a real magical monster, was waiting for them. His eyes glowed with a blue flame, and sharp fangs protruded from his mouth. The man swung with all his might, striking the beast. The fox was quite strong for his size. The guys could have died if they followed him. Grinning contentedly, the man turned to his comrades and commanded them to attack. The beast bent down and bared its teeth at the approaching hunters, preparing to defend itself and attack. The hunters rushed into battle with a joyful cry, and only Leo remained standing motionless, immersed in his thoughts. He wondered why he and Lena were the first to discover the beast, because they were not able to kill it together. He suggested that this could be a special event, but did not understand what its significance was. The man stared at the piece of paper in his hands for a long time, reading it over and over again. Looking askance at the man, Noel worriedly asked what was there. He reported that the Kingdom of Aston declared war on the Kingdom of Velida. Noel noted that the royal family had always dreamed of the rich, fertile lands of Velida. The man reported that the Sacred Kingdom had stated that they would not participate in the war, so they would have to call in troops from Fort Avril. Noel thought that this was simply ridiculous. Should they really be guarding the southwestern border anyway? He believed that they could simply live in peace if they did not know. Leo immediately thought about Lena. The man, sighing heavily, said that the girl would take part in the war. The guy was stunned by this news. He clearly did not expect this. Lena beamed joyfully, declaring that it couldn't have been any other way. She was, after all, the daughter of a military man. The girl also added that such experience will help on the path to knighthood. The woman sitting next to her turned a worried look at her daughter. Lena immediately hurried to reassure her mother, assuring her that everything was fine and that this was the way of a warrior. Leo immediately remembered their hunt, that event at the mythical river. He thought that if Lena had suffered from a mythical beast then, she would not have been able to take part in the war. But even if the guy knew about the war in advance, this did not mean that he was ready to send Lena to certain death. The girl continued to comfort her crying mother, and the man joined her, hugging them both affectionately. The guy didn't like the fact that he couldn't watch the event with Lena going to war in advance. The man sat on a chair, crossing his legs, and thoughtfully peered at the parchment. He became distracted when he heard his son call out to him. Leo decisively told his father that he too would go to war. The guy said that he also wants to join Lena. Slamming the book loudly on the table, the man declared that he was against it. He added that Leo is not that good with a sword. In fact, he has become even more clumsy than before. The father said that it was the same as going to certain death. Leo immediately protested. It was not a fact that he would die. The man was furious. He said that the guy knew nothing at all about the war. Leo tried to object, but his father said that if he even mentions this again, he will break his son's legs. The man ordered him to get away if he understood everything. Leo once again tried to say something about Lena. The father immediately sternly repeated that he should get out. The guy walked out, slamming the door behind him and leaning his back against it. He looked gloomy, and all he could think about was Lena. Over time, the guy realized that his father was not joking when he threatened to break his legs. The man asked if his son really thought that he, the knight of Avril Castle, would not know that he had secretly submitted a petition. Leo somehow raised his head, stunned by the strong blow and still feeling his father's grip. The guy justified himself by saying that he simply could not find any other way out. All he could do now was wait for departure. The day before departure, Lena spent her time at the training ground, handling the sword. She was interrupted by a guy who approached and invited the girl to fight. Leo got into a fighting stance and prepared for battle. The girl grinned contentedly, throwing her sword aside. Reaching for the training sword, Lena warned the guy to be careful. Standing up, the girl added that she was, in fact, in perfect shape. Everyone tightened their grip on their weapons, keeping an eye on their opponent and preparing to fight. Having assessed the situation and the girl's preparation, Leo realized that this would not be enough to knock her off her feet. The guy swung his hand and ran at Lena. The girl blocked the blow, sparks flying from the swords crashing into each other. Lena turned around and the stunned guy flew to the ground, unable to stay on his feet. Leo raised his head in time to see Lena with her sword raised high, preparing for another blow. The guy hurried to grab his sword, blocking her attack. Leo sharply waved his hand, repelling the girl's attack and causing her to involuntarily stagger. The The guy was about to strike Lena in the chest, but she dodged it in time, turning sideways. The girl swung again, this time striking not only with her sword but also with her foot. Leo stood up sharply, preventing her from making her attack, blocking her swing with his sword. Lena smiled contentedly, noting that it seemed the guy had gained experience. Leo returned her with the same smile, assuring the girl that he had not been idle. They began to fight again, this time striking faster and more furiously. Lena tripped the guy, which he caught on, and the girl was glad that he was caught. Unable to maintain his balance, Leo flew to the ground, dropping the sword from his hands in surprise. The guy grimaced and let out a quiet groan, hitting his head on the ground with all his might. Putting the tip of the sword to his throat, Lena noted that he still had to work on his sword technique. The guy pursed his lips in displeasure, not believing that it was all over so quickly. Lena added that Leo needed to train hard and promised that when she returned from the war, they would fight again. The guy suddenly stood up, running into Lena. The girl dropped her sword in surprise. Leo managed to knock her to the ground, hanging on top and not allowing her to rise. The guy shouted with displeasure that he already knew everything. He looked gloomy, upset, completely downcast. Lena gently ran her hand over Leo's cheek, jokingly calling him a fool. She promised that she would definitely return and asked him not to be stupid and to devote this time to training. Lena pulled the guy towards her, connecting her lips with his and burying her fingers in his hair. Leo tensed for a second but then relaxed, kissing him back. The guy groaned sleepily, feeling the other half of the bed with his hand. Realizing that it was empty, Leo shuddered and called Lena, but no one answered. On the way, hastily putting on a jacket, the guy flew out of the room, continuing to call Lena. The man and girl froze in surprise, looking at Leo. Suddenly, the man laughed cheerfully at the top of his voice. He cheerfully asked the unmarried people if they would like to receive a hat for their entertainment. Lena sullenly waved it off, declaring that she was actually going to war. Wanting to change the subject, the girl invited Len to join them for breakfast. Saying goodbye, the woman asked her daughter to be careful, but the father, on the contrary, gave parting instructions to kill them all. Lena asked the man to monitor his health. Noel gave the man a brotherly pat on the shoulder as silent support. Leo stopped in front of the girl, also wanting to say goodbye to her. The guy looked at Lena with longing, even though she promised that she would definitely return. Without waiting for the girl to finish, Leo embraced her, holding her tightly to himself. Lena immediately returned the hug, and the guy asked her to be careful. The girl assured that he need not worry and that she would return as a real knight. The drums began to sound a military march. The man in front blew his horn loudly, attracting everyone's attention. The guy with longing in his eyes saw off the departing warriors. Left alone, Leo began intensive training. He planned to show his skills to his father and go to war with Lena. The guy froze, stunned by the news he received, not believing his eyes. It became known that Lena died in the war. The guy again found himself in that dark, deserted place, and the system thanked him for the game. Leo clutched his chest, feeling tears running down his face. He looked at the presented characteristics, thinking that it was all for nothing. Lena died in the war, in battle, and he was not even next to her. The guy fell to his knees, thinking about how pathetic he was. After the story ended, Leo died, unable to survive the shame. The system reported that the player failed to raise Lena. Since Leo became a knight and defended Avril's fortress his whole life, some of his skill will be transferred to the player. The guy was happy about this. Then there was hunting, now sword mastery. He hoped it would be better next time. He decided that since it all ended like this, next time he would become so strong that he would crush everything in his path. The guy suddenly opened his eyes, getting used to the new body and surroundings. He sadly noted that there was a new place around him again. Someone quietly called his brother, and the guy was stunned to realize that it was Lena. Hugging her knees and frowning, the girl said that she was hungry. Looking at himself, the guy decided that something was wrong with this new Leo, and with Lena too. He didn't understand how this Leo allowed Lena to live in such conditions. The girl lay down on the guy's shoulder, quietly saying that she was thirsty. The guy realized that this time they were brother and sister, and also that the girl was terribly exhausted. He realized that if he didn't do something right away, the girl might simply die. People, like ants, scoured the streets of the city, busy with their own affairs. The guy looked out from behind the alley, realizing that this time they were a couple of city beggars. Looking around, he immediately drew attention to the food counter. Leo was delighted with the food and immediately began to creep up to the counter. Noticing the guy approaching, the owner was annoyed that this was just another beggar. Taking a large wooden bat in his hands, the man walked towards the would-be thief. He blocked the guy's path with a bat, forcing him to freeze in place in fear. The owner waved his hand at Leo, asking him to leave on good terms. The guy immediately bowed, assuring that he was not trying to steal anything. The man once again advised him to leave. Leo asked if the owner had anything to sell to the poor, promising that he would find a way to pay for it. Swinging the bat, the man warned him one last time to leave on good terms. The guy closed his eyes but didn't back down. He understood that if he didn't bring food, he and Lena would simply die of hunger. The man stopped in shock, not understanding what was wrong with the guy. Leo asked the owner to give them at least the unusable parts, heads, legs, what he would throw away anyway. The man admitted that if he gave him food, other shopkeepers would complain that he was feeding poverty here. The guy immediately bowed politely, admitting that he understood that his request was causing the man inconvenience. He said that he and his sister were dying of hunger, promising that they would never forget his kindness, and once again asked for help. The man sighed heavily, but took pity and told the guy to wait here. The brother and sister immediately began to eat the scraps that the owner of the shop provided them. The guy was glad that they managed to somehow fill their stomachs for a while. It would be nice to find more food. Leo reasoned that this is a big city, which means there must be a river somewhere. The guy turned to Lena, asking if she knew where the river was. Looking into the girl's eyes, full of bewilderment, Leo realized that she had no idea where the river was. The guy suddenly looked at a small puddle near them. Approaching the puddle, Leo hesitantly looked at his reflection, realizing that if they drank from it, they would definitely get sick. The guy picked up the pendant that hung around his neck, looking at it closely and trying again to figure out what it was. Looking at his sister, he noted that Lena had the same amulet. The guy decided that it seemed like it was something important to them. Somehow getting to her feet, Lena suggested that her brother go, because it was already getting dark. The guy was a little shocked that they had no food and water, but they had a house. He smiled and admitted that he had forgotten the way home, so he asked his sister to take them there. The girl was amused by the fact that, it turns out, there is something that her brother can't do and happily agreed to show him the way. Seeing their house, Leo was surprised that they lived in such a place because they could easily be kicked out of here. He assumed that the owner of this house did not know that they lived here. The guy suggested that they had only recently gone broke and become poor. Lena called her brother over. While settling down for the night, the girl admitted that she was very tired. Lena stated that she would sleep first, but Leo stopped her, pointing out that she needed to wash her face first. It hurt him to see the girl dirty and in rags, but even without knowing anything, he could see her face. Leo froze in shock, looking at Lena's face, her wide eyes and the slight blush on her cheeks. The girl was surprised by her brother's reaction and asked what happened. Leo immediately hastened to assure that everything was fine and suggested they go to bed. The guy lay down next to Lena, continuing to examine the girl. Previously, he was confident that he could cope with any situation. This storyline turned out to be difficult from the very beginning. However, unlike the previous ones, here Leo will not be able to become her husband, and in this sense, it was easier for him. In addition, here the girl was several years younger than the previous Lenas, so the guy could raise her and put her on her feet himself. However, looking at the girl, the guy couldn't help but notice how beautiful she was. In this world, slavery is a common occurrence, so beggars with good looks are always taken by slave traders. The guy suggested that this is why Leo hides her in this outback and dirty her with dirt to hide her beauty. In this case, it is clear why Lena does not know where the source of water is. Most likely it was Leo who obtained the water. Taking another look at the pendant, the guy suggested that it was a family heirloom. Every gamer knew this cliche, the secret of origin and noble appearance. This was the storyline where Lena defeats her enemies and reclaims her rights to the throne. The guy suggested that the struggle for the throne would be the denouement of this story. He carefully hugged the girl, who was already snoring peacefully. All he wanted was to protect her. The guy carefully removed the curtain, happily announcing that he had found the princess. The girl laughed cheerfully when the guy picked her up and threw her into the air. The girl was sitting with her nose buried in her knees when she heard someone call her. The guy sleepily noted that Lena got up early today. The girl confirmed that she woke up first today. Leo asked if she drank water. Lena said that she had already drunk and left what was left in the circle for her brother. The guy was surprised to note that she didn't even drink half of it, but still decided to drink a little. Leo handed her the rest, offering to drink it, but the girl didn't understand why she should drink her brother's water. The guy said that all the water was for the girl, to which Lena tried to argue that she had already drunk. Nevertheless, she accepted the mug and drank the contents while Leo watched with a smile. Having asked if the girl was hungry and having received an affirmative answer, the guy told her to follow him. The guys sat down on the main square. I heard merchants inviting people to their place, offering exotic fruits and exquisite jewelry. Over time, the guy realized that they were in Orville, the capital of Velida, the very country that would be at war with the kingdom of Aston. A long time ago, when there were different races on the continent, one empire exterminated the remaining races and proclaimed the Age of Mankind. The empire later split into 7 kingdoms, among which was the kingdom of Velida, which inherited most of the culture and heritage of the Arche Empire. This is a rich country, but the cruelty and greed of its inhabitants was immediately evident. The guy thought that it would be very good if he could find someone who would look after Lena. Leo immediately turned his worried gaze to the girl, noticing that she was not moving. Lifting Lena, who could hardly move, Leo worriedly asked what was wrong with her. The girl somehow said that she was dizzy. The guy noted with concern that Lena had a fever and red spots on her skin. He helped the girl lean on the wall and asked her to wait for him here, promising that he would find out where the doctor was and come back. Leo rushed as fast as he could through the streets of the city in search of a person who could help the girl. However, no matter how much the guy searched, he still could not find a doctor. He tried to ask people, explaining that his sister was sick, but no one paid attention to him. Suddenly, Leo heard someone's voice, which suggested that they should look around the corner. It was a sweet old lady who said that if a guy is looking for a doctor, he needs to turn the corner and there, he will see his shop. The woman warned him that he needed to hurry since his sister was sick. Leo exhaled heavily. It seemed to him that he was about to give up the ghost. He was unhappy that this time he got such a weak and frail body that the guy could barely drag the girl on him. Lena sleepily told her brother that she had dreamed something. The guy asked her to wait a little longer, saying that they were almost there. Leo froze abruptly, finally noticing the sign of that same doctor. He somehow opened the door, holding the girl with one hand. The guy felt sweat running down his face. The doctor, having examined them, immediately rudely replied that if they did not have money, then they could get lost. Leo tried to go inside, promising that he would pay everything later. The man didn't even want to listen to this, rudely pushing both of them out of the bench. The guy immediately rushed to Lena in concern, looking to see if everything was okay with her. Leo turned to the man again, explaining that this was his sister. He asked for help, promising that he would definitely find the money. The man again shouted to go away, swinging at the guy. The doctor hit Leo in the face with all his might, which the guy did not expect. Suddenly, Leo remembered that he had a pendant. He grabbed the pendant, showing it to the man and asking him to take it as payment for the treatment. The guy noted that he had found it, and it was most likely some kind of jewelry. Throwing the pendant aside, the man rudely told the guy to get out, giving him exactly 3 seconds to do so. The doctor began his countdown. The guy looked at Lena, who continued to lie unconscious on the ground. Suddenly, some unknown woman turned to the doctor, saying that she would pay if he helped them. The man froze for a moment, looking at the woman with a gaze. Then, suppressing a heavy sigh, he agreed to examine Lena. The woman immediately approached Leo, helping him up and asking how he was. Raising his eyes to her, one of which was already swollen due to the strong blow, Leo only managed to squeeze out a quiet, "Thank you." When the guy came to his senses, he was no longer lying on the ground, but on some couch in an unfamiliar place. He immediately looked around, trying to understand where he was and where Lena was. Having assumed a sitting position, the guy continued to frantically call his sister. A woman's voice was heard from behind the door, glad that Leo had woken up and told him to come here. Entering another room, the guy saw the same stranger who was sitting by the hospital bed. Pale Lena lay unconscious on the bed. She looked exhausted, and there were still red dots on her skin. The woman said that she had already been treated. Leo immediately asked what the doctor said when Lena would recover. The stranger said that this doctor does not understand anything. He is just a charlatan who relies too much on the healing power of the priests. Leo didn't understand what this meant. The woman explained that Lena had already received her medicine and it was starting to work, and the doctor said that it was a fever due to the fact that she had been poisoned by stale food. She chuckled displeasedly, noting that he was such a doctor she could say that herself. Leo didn't understand what he should do now, whether he should look for a priest. The stranger said that he could only wait. She said that medications to treat such seemingly simple diseases are incredibly expensive. She apologized, admitting that she couldn't afford it, and she couldn't sell her establishment for the sake of it. The guy assured that she had already helped them a lot. The stranger replied that she did it out of her heart and invited the guy to stay with her, because there would be no visitors today anyway. The guy asked her to stop, asking her name. The woman looked at him with a surprised look, and Leo explained that he did not know how to address her. The woman said he could call her Cassia, that's her name. The guy carefully tasted Lena's forehead, surprised that it was still hot. He didn't understand why she got so sick, obviously not because of that chicken, because he also ate it. The guy believed that this was simply impossible, because he chose the best pieces for the girl. He thought about whether it was really necessary for Lena to get sick at the beginning of the storyline. Is this a script? However, the guy decided that this was not logical, because in this state the girl was on the verge of death. Leo suggested that perhaps the script was that Lena received help from Cassia, but the circumstances were too dire and desperate for this to be a planned plot twist. The guy admitted that this is the highest level of difficulty, and Lena is sick and dying from the very beginning. Then this scenario cannot be cleared. The guy decided that he needed to analyze everything that happened. Leo remembered that when the game started, Lena said that she was thirsty, but she drank very little water, even though she was thirsty. Suddenly, the guy was struck by a terrible idea. Maybe while he was getting food, Lena drank from that dirty puddle. The guy suddenly felt sad because he left the girl alone. He began to pray that everything would be okay with Lena, admitting that it was all his fault. Suddenly, Leo heard a quiet voice calling him brother. While giving the girl water, he immediately asked how she was. Lena said that she had dreamed something. Leo, with tears in his eyes, asked her to drink water first. The girl didn't understand why her brother was crying, because in her dream he was laughing. The guy asked her not to talk nonsense, but to drink water and go back to rest. Leo helped the girl up, bringing the mug to her mouth and helping her drink. The guy hoped that if Lena slept well, then tomorrow she might be better. Having brought the girl to him, he again asked her to drink a little more. Suddenly, a notification appeared in front of the guy's face, which shocked him. The system reported that Lena died. The guy continued to stand in his usual place while the system thanked him for the game. He fell to his knees doomedly, blaming himself for his sister's death. The guy continued to scream, scold himself, wishing that he was in her place. He recalled the moment when he saw that Lena was dead, realizing that this was not for him. As a consolation, the system provided the player with initial capital. The guy thought it was the same as infecting someone and then stuffing him with medicine. Gritting his teeth, he pressed the start again button. The guy heard someone tell Leo that seeing a squirrel was a sign that they would have good luck. The girl ran up to the guy, asking if he could hear her. Lena froze in surprise, not understanding why Leo was suddenly behaving so strangely. The guy was incredibly happy that he was back, so he just silently looked at the girl with a smile. He felt as if they had been next to each other only yesterday, and therefore it was surprising to him that he had to start all over again. After thinking a little, he decided that perhaps this was for the best. He could no longer stand repeating this over and over again, and even in relation to, he considered it unfair to Lena. He was sure that all this would end when the girl became a princess. Lena turned to the guy, asking what happened. Leo hastened to assure that everything was fine, thinking that if the girl remembered the past, they could escape. The guy understood that now he had only two options left. If Leo lets the girl go with the priests, then she will become a priest, not a princess. But if he doesn't let her go, then Lena will marry Leo. It turned out that in any case, he would not complete the game. All this seemed just some kind of madness to the guy. Leo suddenly pulled out a pouch from his belt and opened it, not understanding what it was. The guy remembered that he received initial capital as a consolation for a previous failure. He was glad, because with this money they could travel to the capital of the Kingdom of Oren or even to the Kingdom of Conrad. The guy remembered that the events in the church would take place in the fall, so they had to leave the village before that time. Before proceeding with the plan, the guy hurried to hunt with his father to get his permission. Sitting by the fire, the man noted that Leo's hunting skills had become much better. Having collected his thoughts, the guy told his father that he needed to tell him something. The guy said that he recently managed to catch a bear and got some money for it. The man was surprised that Leo managed to catch the bear alone. Leo reported that it was not easy, but he lured the wounded bear into the trap with his bait. The father admitted that it was quite a clever move. Leo admitted that he wants to help Lena get into the capital's church, but she herself will not be able to do this. With this money, they could go to Nevas, save a little more money there, and go to Lutheria, but he could not send the girl alone. Leo asked if his father would allow him to go with Lena. The guy was surprised that the man was really considering this strange request, because if he refused, Leo would still go. The guy was very surprised when his father threw another bag of money at his feet. After this, the man took a bowl of blood and poured it onto the fire, thereby appeasing the gods. The guy was very grateful to his father for his action and permission. Leo and Lena were sitting in a clearing, and the guy noted that even picking mushrooms was exactly the same as then. The girl suddenly broke the silence, admitting that she wanted to tell Leo something. But the guy interrupted her, asking if Lena wanted to go to Nevas together. The girl was surprised. She didn't understand why they should go to Nevas. Leo said that this is the capital, admitting that he always wanted to visit there. Besides, as the guy noted, there is a lot of work there. Lena asked in surprise whether Leo was planning to become a hunter. The guy waved it off, noting that it could wait. He also added that this way they will be closer to the sacred kingdom, and from there many go to Lutheria because it is a church place. The girl asked how they would get to Nevas. On foot, it would take at least 2 months, and besides, it was very dangerous. Leo showed her a bag of money, saying that he had drunk a little and offered to use it. Lena immediately, dumbfounded, asked where the guy got so much money. She assumed that his father gave it to him. Leo honestly answered that he had saved up something, asked his father for something, adding that he would be lonely alone and invited the girl to go with him. After thinking a little, Lena assured that she would definitely go. Unable to hold back her tears, the girl smiled widely, thanking Leo for this opportunity. The guy decided that everything turned out just fine. The girl was destined to leave anyway, even if not with him. The men slowly pushed the carts forward along the road while Lena walked alongside. One of the men noted that Leo did not have to do this, but he assured that it was nothing for him. Twice a month, a cart with goods goes from the village to the capital to the market and returns with food. So the guys followed her. Lena offered one of the men a drink and he politely thanked her. When sunset fell on the city, the men stopped for the night, setting up tents. Lena and Leo said goodbye to them. Heading further, the men wished them a good journey. The girl noted that they could stay here, but Leo replied that the main thing is that everything is fine with her. He said that this is why he saved money. Lena tried to object, but Leo assured her that she need not worry and suggested moving on. The The guy stopped, looking at the back with a dissatisfied look. Having given the boys a room, the man asked them to tell them what time they were leaving tomorrow. Leo assured that he would definitely tell him and said goodbye to the man, while Lena was crazy about having a bed. She was absolutely delighted, as it would be the first time she would sleep on a real bed. Suddenly, the girl worriedly asked if they should sleep on the bed, because there was no money for the toilet. Leo said he paid for one room, so it wasn't very expensive. Lena warned that if the guy acts weird while they are in the same room, then she won't leave it like that. Leo assured her that he understood everything. He thought it was cute that the effect was the opposite. The girl was lying on the bed, looking at the ceiling. Although she was tired, there was no sleep in either eye. Rising, Lena turned to the peacefully sleeping Leo, furtively examining the guy. The girl remembered the moment when he invited her to go to Nevas. He said that he had some savings and invited Lena to go with him. How after that, satisfied, they hugged in the clearing, rejoicing at the upcoming trip. The girl sat down, tucking her knees under her. They were grateful to Leo because she had almost given up. Hearing some rustling noises from the guy, she asked Leo if he was okay. Gently stroking the guy on the head, Lena suggested that he was having a nightmare. In truth, the girl was ready to confess to him if they had not gone on a trip. Lena froze in indecision, thinking about her action. Hoping that perhaps they could fall in love, the girl hesitantly kissed the sleeping Leo. Feeling some movements from the guy, Lena immediately jumped back, scared. The girl immediately muttered an apology, feeling her cheeks flush. Noticing that the guy continued to sleep peacefully, Lena breathed out a sigh of relief. Having settled back on the bed and turning to the guy, the girl mentally apologized to him for her action. She promised that when she became a priest, she would definitely give Leo a blessing. The guy carefully patted Lena on the shoulder, telling her that it was time for her to wake up. The girl moaned sleepily, asking the guy if he had gotten enough sleep. Leo assured that he had slept well and had already washed himself, pointing to the water and a towel, and invited the girl to do the same. The guy also told Lena not to forget to eat before leaving. Leo leisurely strolled through the market, looking at the stalls with food and products. A familiar man suddenly waved his hand to the guy as a sign of greeting and asked how he slept. Leo stopped, smiling welcomingly and waving back. Gans also waved his hand in greeting, and with a wry smile noticed that Leo also remained in the city. Leo asked if the guy had already sold everything, to which Gans replied that everything had sold out very quickly. The guy asked if Leo had eaten yet. He said that he had not yet and was planning to eat in the city. Gans offered to join him. The guy decided that he would not refuse such an offer. Leo had no reason for this, as he heard Gans does not work anywhere and is hiding somewhere. The guy immediately remembered his past life, which he spent playing games on the computer. He decided that this was quite possible, and who was he to judge anyone? Gans suddenly broke the silence by asking if he could ask a question. The guy, without a shadow of embarrassment, asked Leo if he slept with Lena. Now the guy understood why Gans followed him in the first place. He thought about what the real Leo would do, get angry or ignore it. Waving him off, the guy assured that he quickly passed out from fatigue. Gans didn't understand what was wrong with him since he just fell asleep. Leo was about to answer something, but he was interrupted by Lena, who appeared. The guy asked her if she was ready yet, but the girl was surprised that Gans would go with them. Leo confirmed with a smile that they would eat together and invited everyone to move forward. Sitting at the dinner table, Gans asked if they were going to the castle. He wasn't sure if this was the right direction because then they would have to make a big circle. Leo replied that they had no choice. If they found a cart, then they could escape this circle, but there were no carts here. Gans objected, noting that where there is a market, there are carts. He assumed that various carts were heading here from the west. This news made the guys very happy. The guy offered to show them, to which Leo asked if he knew anyone. Gans assured that he is well-versed in the area. Leo asked if they could leave today. Gans replied that this would need to be clarified and asked them to simply trust him. The guy waved warmly to the men, who immediately recognized Gans. One of the men asked whether the trade was going well, and the guy hastened to assure that yes. Gans pointed to the guys, saying that these were his friends who were going to Nevas and asked if there was a cart. The man said that they were not going to Nevas, but intended to go in that direction and offered to introduce the guys to those who were going to Nevas. The guy and girl immediately agreed, inspired by the upcoming trip. The man noted that this was a 2-week trip and he would have to give up many goods to take with him, and therefore it would cost about 5 silver. Gans noticed that they had to stop in the village for 2 days and asked to reduce the price, since they had no money. After thinking a little, the man finally agreed, and then said goodbye to the guys, promising that they would see each other again. Leo was very grateful to the guy for saving their time and money. Gans noted that Lena was traveling with him, and he must take care of her comfort. The girl immediately thanked the guy for his concern. It seemed to Leo that Gans was just chilling, but everything turned out differently. The guy immediately shrugged it off in embarrassment, noting that he didn't deserve any gratitude. When night had already fallen on the city, the guys settled into that same cart. Sighing sadly, the guy thought that this would never end. Lena asked Leo if they would need to work for a year. The guy looked at me and hesitantly replied that, probably, yes. In fact, he lied to the girl and he was sorry for it. Leo thought that she was earning money in the capital so she could go to the Sacred Kingdom. With prices like those in the capital, it would be difficult to save enough money in just a few years. But they are not going to the Sacred Kingdom because Lena should become a princess, not a priestess. From the moment the guy decided to go on a trip, Lena was completely isolated because of him. The girl didn't know what to do now, and Leo offered to work in a bakery because the Ghanaian's aunt really liked Lena. The girl noted that she only knows how to do dough. Leo assured that Lena would be paid well, but she was not sure of that. If the girl had not followed Leo, she would have met the priests on the way to the cathedral. Although the guy felt sorry for Lena, he was determined to make her a princess. After a long and tedious road, the guys finally reached their intermediate destination. Fortunately, a recommendation from a merchant lord allowed Leo to meet another merchant lord heading to Nevas. The guy put Lena to bed in the hotel, and he went for the much-needed purchase. The woman was a little surprised that the guy wanted swords and asked if he had permission. Leo honestly admitted that he didn't and asked if he could buy a sword without permission. He explained that he was on his way soon and needed to protect his loved ones. The guy asked to make an exception for him only once. The woman asked if Leo was a robber, to which he hastened to assure that of course not. Then she pointed to the tattoo on his arm, saying that this was the sign of the clan. Leo responded in surprise that his father gave it to him, and that his father had the same tattoo. The woman asked who his father was then, and the guy honestly answered that he was a hunter. The blacksmith was still not entirely sure that Leo was not a robber, but still said to follow her. Taking the guy to another room, she pointed to the wall with hanging swords, allowing him to choose the one that suits him. Leo was a little upset that there were only one-handed swords, to which the woman happily noted that he really was not a robber. The guy remembered that he had already repeated this many times, to which the blacksmith simply replied that it was hard to believe and told him to wait for her here. A moment later, she threw a cloth at the guy's feet, in which several swords were wrapped. Taking one of them in his hands, Leo noted that these swords were very poorly balanced. The woman replied that, in fact, her hobby is making shields, and she makes swords just for fun. These swords were going to be melted down, so she let the guy take them inexpensively. After thinking, Leo chose one of them, deciding that at least something was better than nothing at all. Plus, he has fencing skills, so he can use them. Seeing Leo return, the girl asked where he had been and what kind of barrel he had brought. The guy happily said that he took a barrel of beer because in the village they did not have the opportunity to have a good drink. Lena wasn't sure what they were allowed to do. She was worried that they would get into trouble. Leo didn't understand who they could be from, to which the girl suggested that, for example, from Vinar. The guy responded to this by saying that priests also like to drink, for example, during rituals, to which Lena hesitantly agreed. Leo suggested that she also practice for the future because she too would someday become a priest. The guy was sure that Vinar would react with understanding, because in a few months Lena would come of age. Smiling cheerfully, Leo kept encouraging the girl to try at least a little. Finally deciding, Lena took the offered mug and drank the contents in one gulp. Smiling contentedly, the girl admitted that it was very tasty. Lena added that for some reason she now felt dizzy. Leo thought it was a pleasant feeling. The guy decided that if he got her drunk, then he could ask her carefully about the past. Leo asked if the girl remembered what happened the summer before last. She assured that of course she remembers. The guy then brought home Kokorin and he got screwed for it. Lena also recalled how the guy saved her, noting that he acted like a real hero. The girl remembered how Leo rang the church bell and people thought that there was a fire, and the whole village ran there. Lena smiled contentedly at the fact that they had so many common memories. The guy noted that the more he learns, the more he feels like a real Leo. He believed that it would be better if he could get into this role, because he is not the real Leo. Lena, already half drunk, asked why the guy was talking to her, what he was up to. She wondered what Leo would do when she became a priest, because then she would not be able to help him. The guy easily picked up Lena in his arms, noting with a smile that she could bless him. Leo threw the girl onto the bed while she protested, declaring that she was a future priest and he couldn't behave like that with her. The guy believed that he needed to build this wall between them. It would be better. Lying down on the bed, Lena mumbled sleepily, asking the guy to leave. Leo smiled affectionately, looking at this sweet picture, and decided that he needed to drink less often with the girl. The man joyfully announced that they had arrived, admitting that he had not been here for a long time and was even afraid that he had completely forgotten the way. The man noted that hotel prices in Nevas are very high, but in this one they are quite reasonable, adding that this is his friend's hotel, so he will not offend the guys. Upon entering, the man immediately greeted an old friend whom he had not seen for a long time. He was immediately happy to see his old friend, admitting that he had already begun to forget his face. The man asked a friend to provide these young people with some room. The owner of the hotel said that he had a room for two, but admitted that there were a lot of people checking in now, so he would not be able to accommodate everyone from the man's caravan, asking what they should do. The man admitted that this was a great nuisance, but asked if there was at least a room for these two. He added that these were his friends and asked to give them a discount out of old friendship. The hotel owner asked how long they would stay, to which Leo immediately replied that if they were given a discount, it would be for a long time. He added that they would also need to find work, so first they decided to agree on a day. The man said that since they were such good guests and were going to stay here for a long time, he would find them a better room and told them to follow him. After walking up a couple of steps, the owner stopped abruptly and looked at his friend, remembering something important. He asked to wait a minute, remembering that he had promised his friend something last time and assured that he would bring it now. The man led the guys into the room chosen for them, which Lena was simply delighted with. Looking around, the girl noted that this room was really better than others. The man assured that he was always happy to help a friend, and the guys seemed like good people to him. Turning to Leo, he said that the room would cost only 3 silver per day. The guy was very dumbfounded at this price. The man immediately asked if it was too expensive for them, but the guy hastened to assure that everything was in order. 3 silver ones or 3 silver ones. Thanking Leo for the payment, the man smiled contentedly and left them to settle down in their new home. The girl was glad that it was so good and cheap here. The guy noted that this inn was located on the outskirts and there were good conditions. Lena asked if they would stay here for a long time. Leo didn't mind. The main thing for him was that it wouldn't take too long to get to work. Looking out the window, the girl gasped at the beauty, saying that the view here was simply magnificent. Hearing someone say goodbye to her, Lena immediately turned in surprise towards the voice coming from her. It turned out to be Mr. Merchant, whom the girl joyfully thanked from the bottom of her heart. Lena noted that he was such a good person, wondering if they would meet again. Leo assured that if it was God's will, then of course they would meet, and invited the girl to take a walk in the city center. Lena enthusiastically pointed to the castle that could be seen above the houses, indicating that it was simply gigantic. Since Leo had never been here before, he wondered if it was always this busy. This place reminded him very much of the places he had been to when they were poor brother and sister. Pointing her finger towards the gathered crowd, Lena asked the guy what was happening there. Standing on the platform, the man talked about a young guy from a tribe of barbarians who live in the swamps, assuring that he was very healthy and strong and had never been sick in his life, saying that the starting bid was 10 silver. People immediately began vying with each other to raise their bets, shouting 15 and 20 silver coins. In undeveloped lands live tribes, such as in the scenario with Lena Einar. These tribes are considered uncivilized and barbaric by the successor states of the empire. This means that in the scenario with Lena Einar, only a few princes can be candidates for her hand and heart, from the kingdoms of Aston, Aster, and the Sacred Empire. The girl asked Leo to leave here, admitting that she could not watch it. The guy suggested going to the castle, hoping that they could find work there. A guard standing nearby called out to the guy, ordering him to stop. Approaching Leo, the man pointed his finger at his scabbard, displeased with the fact that he was carrying a sword. The guard who approached noticed that the guy didn't look much like a knight and asked if he was a mercenary. Leo immediately hastened to assure them that of course not. The man pointed out that the guy was about to approach the palace grounds with a weapon in his hands, noting that he could at least hide it. Leo immediately apologized, admitting that he didn't know it was illegal. He explained that they had only arrived in Nevas yesterday and he was simply looking for work. The wanderer asked the guy to look at the sword, and he decided that it was better not to argue with them. The man asked where he got it, and the guy admitted that he bought it on the way for self-defense. The guard noted in surprise that this was a defective weapon. The second man also wanted to look at the sword. Taking the weapon in his hands, he noticed that the weight was concentrated closer to the tip of the sword. Leo asked if he could still carry it with him. The guard replied that he would not even bother to confiscate it, but warned that armed men should not come close to the palace, so he advised leaving the sword somewhere. Leo thanked the men, assuring them that he would be careful. Noticing the sign on the guy's hand, the guard stopped him again, suspecting that Leo might be a robber. The guy immediately began to protest, stuttering, talking about his father. Lena intervened in the conversation and confirmed that he had had this tattoo since childhood. The guard turned to his comrade, asking him to let the guys go, because what kind of robber would think of walking around openly here with a defective sword? Leo breathed a sigh of relief when the guards left, allowing the guys to go about their business. Lena noted that she saw the guy take out a sword and decided that Leo didn't even know how to hold it, and he had the weapon for beauty. Moreover, the sword is still defective. The girl admitted that she felt like a real fool, because she was so touched by Leo's words that he would protect her. The guy immediately protested that he knew how to handle a sword, to which Lena laughed cheerfully, calling him a stupid Mr. Hunter. The woman said that she really needed an assistant to knead the dough at dawn. She asked if Lena would come tomorrow, saying that she would like to see how the girl works before deciding on her salary. Lena assured that she would come tomorrow and work. The woman was very pleased with how hardworking the girl was. Leo asked Lena how everything went, and the girl happily replied that everything was fine. The guy asked how much she would receive, and Lena said that the woman would decide tomorrow at the end of her working day. Leo warned that one should not accept such strange offers. Lena is no longer a little girl, but she assured that she would definitely receive a well-deserved payment. Lena said that she has a flair for good people, and this woman seemed normal to her. Leo suggested that she was like Gans's aunt, but Lena immediately objected that this was not so. The man asked if the guy had any work experience. He replied that he did not, but said that he helped his father in various jobs. The man promised that he would pay well and asked when Leo would be able to leave. He replied that he would think about it. The guys went back through the narrow streets of the city. Lena asked if they would stay in that inn. Leo replied with a smile that it seemed like yes. The girl was very happy about it. The guy got Lena a job. Now he had to look for ways for her to meet the prince. Leo chose a bakery far from the girl's place of work. If he shows her his father's money and says that this is his salary, then Lena will not know anything. The girl suddenly stopped, looking at her feet. She pointed to the strange scratches that appeared on the door. Leo reported that this was also the case when they came the first time, suggesting that maybe they were cutting out wormholes or mold. The guys entered the inn, which was already filled with people. The man smiled welcomingly, greeting those who entered and informing them that they were waiting for them. Not understanding what was happening, Deo said that they would go to their room. Noticing a bunch of armed people, the guy assumed that they were mercenaries. The guys froze in front of the stairs, brushing aside a huge thug who was coming down and ordered them to get out of the way. With the sword visible from its sheath, Leo ordered the girl to hide behind it. Lena screamed in fear and hid behind the guy. The men jumped up from their seats, also drawing their weapons. Leo, although he didn't know what they were up to, warned them not to approach. The man said that they would soon be at the slave market and ordered them to shut up. Leo froze in fear, remembering the slave auctions he saw in the main square. One of the men swung his hand, intending to strike, but the guy parried the attack in time. Leo warned them to retreat because he would not spare them. One of the men ordered to crush the guy's sides, but not to kill him. One of the falling ones rushed towards the guys, and Leo reflexively pushed Lena to the side so that she wouldn't be hit. The girl clung to the stairs in fear. Leo got into a defensive position, preparing to fight. The guy struck sharply, piercing the attacker's shoulder with his sword. Another tried to hit, but Leo dodged, causing the man, unable to keep his balance, to fly to the floor. Turning around, the guy kicked the attacker in the stomach with a swing. The other men slowed down, looking fearfully at the battle scene. The man angrily stated that they did not agree that way. He stated that the owner said that this was a simple hunter from the village. He assured that the merchant had told him so. Leo understood that they needed to get out of here because it was getting worse every minute. Gathering his strength, the guy struck again. The attackers flew back, groaning from the powerful impact. Leo called the girl, ordering her to come to him immediately. Suddenly, the guy felt pain in his leg, seeing that someone had thrown a dagger at him. Leo dropped to one knee, leaning on his sword, and abruptly pulled the weapon from his leg. The guy distantly heard someone telling him to run. Leo didn't even have time to react when the man hit him on the head with all his might. Lena froze in horror from this picture, not knowing what to do. Leo was on his knees, unable to rise, while the rest of the attackers prepared for a new blow. The guy heard the heart-rending scream of a girl calling him. He jumped to the side just in time to avoid the blow. Looking towards Leo, she saw that the thug had grabbed Lena, who was still trying to escape from his grip. One of the guys threw another dagger at Leo, but he managed to get up and repel the attack. Another one tried to hit from above, taking advantage of the guy's hesitation. Leo, leaning on his knee, managed to block the blow with his sword. Due to the intense pressure, blood began to flow again from the fresh wound. Seeing this, Lena tried to break free again, but the man's grip was too strong. He immediately pressed the girl to the floor, leaning on her with his body, and ordered her not to twitch. The man strictly ordered the thug to be careful with the goods for tomorrow's auction. He feigned sadness and said how sorry he was that 10 people were screwed over one child, but Leo was more attracted to the word goods. The guy realized with horror that they were going to sell Lena as a slave. Leo swung his sword sharply, throwing the attacker back, and he flew to the floor screaming. The guy swung his sword, removing the remaining blood from it, while the defeated enemy lay at his feet. Leo said in a steely voice that if they didn't let Lena go right away, he would kill them all. The rest of the mercenaries froze in a daze, not knowing what to do next. But a moment later, they rushed at the guy with renewed vigor, full of rage. Leo jumped high into the air, parrying another blow, now doing it much more fiercely and sharply. The guy dodged in time, feeling the blade pass a millimeter from his skin. The mercenary grinned wryly, tightening his grip on the dagger and preparing for the next attack. While Leo was distracted by one man, the other kicked him in the stomach with all his might, throwing the guy back. Leo managed to stay on his feet, walking the blade of the sword along the floor, maintaining his balance. The man, watching this with a satisfied smile, ordered not to let down his guard and deal with the guy carefully. Leo sat down on one knee, exhausted, admitting that dodging with a sword was quite difficult. It was not easy for the guy to even just continue to hold the weapon in his hands. Lena, with tears in her her eyes. She begged to let Leo go, promising that she would do whatever they asked. The guy immediately screamed, asking the girl not to do this. Rising, the man ordered not to kill Leo, but simply to take the sword away from him. Another mercenary tried to attack the guy, but Leo stood up with the last of his strength, not allowing himself to be caught. His hands were shaking from severe tension and exhaustion. The guy realized that he was already at the limit. The approaching man managed to take advantage of Leo's hesitation, delivering a new blow, causing the guy to fall on his back. His comrades immediately rushed to the defeated guy without wasting any time. The three of them piled on top of him, preventing Leo from getting up or reaching his sword. The man asked Lena to repeat that she would do anything, and she confirmed this in a quiet voice. He squeezed the girl's tear-stained face with his palm, delighted by her words, and ordered her to follow him. Leo, still trying to get out, kept asking Lena not to do it. The girl turned, casting one last glance at the guy, tears still continuing to flow down her cheeks. The man told his mercenaries to simply knock out Leo, taking the girl away from the inn. Having come to his senses, the guy felt that he was tied up and tried to understand where he was. Remembering the latest events, he immediately thought excitedly about where Lena was. He did not understand at what point everything went wrong, assuming that the merchant had simply sold them. The guy remembered how the man led them to the inn, blaming himself for how naive he was. Hearing some rustling, Leo still held the hope that it would be Lena. But these were the same mercenaries who brought the guy here. They seemed glad that he woke up. Leo immediately asked where the girl was, which is why the men decided that he had not come to her senses. Their leader briefly commanded forward, and the men immediately began to carry out his order. Leo was blindfolded so that he could not see where he was being taken, and his mouth was blindfolded so that he could not make a sound. They picked the guy up in their arms, dragging him towards the cart and complaining about how much they were tired of him. Not caring about his safety, the men threw Leo into the cart while he tried to understand what was going on. The leader said that the girl was sold to the prince, and for some reason he asked for this guy too. Suddenly, a system notification appeared saying that Lena's status had been selected and thanked her for playing. Leo saw that the girl had become the prince's mistress, and he himself was listed as a killer. Feeling his body rise again, the guy almost burst into tears. He just wanted it all to end. The guy suddenly remembered Che-ha, whom he had not thought about at all this time. He had been here for a year now, and he was begging for them to just let him come back. Lena asked Leo in surprise what happened while the guy was trying to get used to the new environment. The girl looked at the guy with an incomprehensible look, and he kept having fragments of the past flashing before his eyes. The guy, without saying a word, threw his sword into the snow. He was sure that he desperately wanted to see the girl. Lena was stunned by his action and did not understand what she saw on Leo when he turned around and walked away. According to the rules of behavior in the alley, Gans told the merchant that they are easy prey, that no one will look for them, and that they themselves are heading to the slave market. This was a sign that housing was accepting people for sale. Leo had no idea that he himself would pay to go to the slave market. Sweaty and exhausted, Lena suggested taking a break. The guy noted that this time he quickly got used to it. The girl, looking intently at the calm guy, noticed that he had somehow changed. She asked why Leo was moving so strangely. The guy admitted that he wanted to find an open place to strike. This was all thanks to the skill of the sword, which he learned before Lena's death. If things continue like this, Lena will go hunting and die, and her father will go to war. The guy remembered how Lena told him not to worry and promised that she would return as a real knight. The girl lay down right in the snow, deciding to take a little rest after training. She grabbed Leo's arm sharply, pulling him towards her. The guy, who did not expect such a maneuver, flew head over heels into the snow near the girl. They lay there in the snow, holding hands and looking at the sky. Suddenly, Lena laughed cheerfully, causing the guy to look at her in surprise. He chuckled briefly, blushing and noting that it looked very cute. The guy knew that it would be difficult for them to catch the mythical beast together, so this time it was better to go to the battlefield together. He promised himself that this time he would definitely protect Lena. Leo froze in front of the dummy, tightening his grip on the weapon in his hands and calculating his steps. He swung sharply, making several precise blows. The severed part of the mannequin immediately flew to the ground at the guy's feet. Lena approached and was surprised that Leo had already woken up. She was worried that the guy was being too tense lately because it was just dawn. Leo removed the helmet from his head, wiping away a drop of sweat running down his face, and assured that the girl should not worry. He promised Lena, who did not take her eyes off him, that he would definitely be careful. The girl remembered how boring Leo was when they had just met. It was 3 years ago when her father brought her to meet new people. The man smiled welcomingly and introduced himself as Noel Dexter. Lena then looked with surprise and suspicion at the guy she still didn't know. She grinned briefly because then she didn't even suspect where this would all lead. Leo suddenly broke the silence, asking the girl why she had come. Lena enthusiastically declared that they could finally become knights, and she really wanted to tell this to the guy. She said her dad told her they could go hunting together. The beast took a step, feeling the trap closing around its paw, digging into its skin. The ropes on his limbs pulled in different directions. The man ordered his comrades to pull harder, all pushing together. The rest stood on the sides of the cliff with spears and bows ready to use their weapons at any moment. Lena ran up and threw her weapon at the beast. The axe pierced the beast's neck and it howled piercingly in pain. Lena was very pleased with her accurate hit. Meanwhile, the man ordered not to panic, but to continue the attack. As in the previous playthrough, Lena went on her first hunt and came across the tracks of a mythical beast. Leo immediately reported this to the squad, and Daegorman gathered all the hunters. The men continued to pull the rope, which tightened around the huge fox's paw. Suddenly, the animal jumped up sharply, breaking the rope, causing everyone holding it to fall into the snow. The fox bared its fangs, heading down, and the men began to run away in panic. Daegorman noted that, judging by its habits, this is definitely a mythical beast. He smiled predatorily, tightened his grip on his weapon, and declared that he would deal with this himself. The wounded beast, studded with arrows, briskly headed towards the man. Daegorman swung his axe, striking back at the beast. The fox jumped back, running its paws through the snow, and stopped in front of the man. The beast bared its teeth, preparing for another blow, as Daegorman rushed into battle again. Usually at the last moment, demonic monsters use their full force during an attack. The man realized that now this fox was going to jump. And so it happened. The beast bared its teeth and jumped high into the air. Daegorman raised his axe, cutting the fox's skin with a sharp blow. Leaning on his weapon, the man laughed cheerfully, looking at the bloody footprints in the snow. Lena immediately threw herself on his neck, joyfully announcing that her dad was simply the best. The guy, meanwhile, began to think about whether Lena's participation in the war was really inevitable. Entering the room of his reading father, Leo announced that he was going to the front. The man looked up from his book, looking intently at his son, thinking about his words. He replied that he was blessing him. Leo had already begun to say that even if he interfered with him, but then fell silent when the meaning of the words spoken reached him. The guy thanked his father for his understanding, surprised that last time he reacted differently. Leo assumed that this was because he trained more diligently, saying that he would continue to train with Lena. The father stopped the guy, asking if he knew anything about tactics and strategy. Then the man explained everything to Leo, the functions of each battalion and their management. In this world, armies consist of 10 people and the fighting style is similar to modern partisan units. This is because if hundreds of soldiers gather on the battlefield, they will be immediately destroyed by magicians. The guy asked if his father wanted to go to war with him, but he replied that he was already tired of killing people. If someone attacked the kingdom of Aston, he would gladly give his life defending his homeland. But campaigns of conquest are a completely different matter. The man asked whether the guy had heard about the 9-Day War. Leo confirmed what he had heard, adding that it was for his participation in this war that his father received his title. In this war, he was just a standard bearer of a knightly regiment and was in 7th heaven because of this. But his happiness did not last long. Previously, Asti and Aster were a single kingdom, but one day a civil war broke out between them. The young king, having barely received the throne, died under mysterious circumstances. Due to the fact that there was no direct heir to the throne, 2 of the young king's uncles became pretenders. Thus began the bloodiest massacre in history. The bloodshed lasted for 3 years, and by the end of the war it became clear that everything was in vain when the own sons of the claimant brothers killed them. The sons concluded a non-aggression pact, divided the country in 2, and declared themselves kings. Thus, 2 kingdoms appeared in the north, Aston and Aster. The father concluded that it was a pointless war. Lena stretched her muscles, asking if the guy was already on his way. The girl did not understand why Leo should go to war with her, asking him to stay at home, and when he asked if she wanted this, she firmly stated that she did not. She didn't know why she needed him there, because suddenly he would die a senseless death and leave her a widow. To this, Leo said that she had better take care not to leave him a widower. Lena asked if Leo would never marry again if she did not return from the war. The guy responded evasively that it would depend on how the girl behaved. Squeezing the weapon tighter and rushing into the attack, Lena concluded that she would have to teach the guy a lesson. After all, he had to say that he would remain a widower for the rest of his life. The guy began to block the blows. He understood perfectly well that they could not avoid war. However, he intended to make sure that they both returned alive. He will not let Lena go alone, like last time, and will not allow her to die. In a few blows, the girl easily knocked the sword out of Leo's hands, putting her weapon to his face. She asked what he was thinking about and warned that if he was as dreamy in the war, he would be killed. The guy decided that he would think about everything else when they returned alive from the war. Sometime later, the guys went to the front. Lena said displeasedly that she was about to die from fatigue, to which the guy repeated that he told her not to drag her feet. The girl froze in amazement, leaning back on a stump watching Leo's actions. She asked what he was doing, but the guy, placing a large basin, told her to give him her leg. Leo advised that it is best to wash your feet with cool water to prevent the calluses from bursting. Lena didn't understand how he realized that her legs hurt, because she didn't tell him that. Carefully washing her feet in the basin, Leo calmly replied that he understood her without words. Lena happily stated that she was feeling better and asked the guy how he was coping. In this game, the guy was helped by his military background, but he simply answered that when a person is tired and drags his feet, calluses rub most easily. Having finished with his work and getting to his feet, Leo told the girl to go and rest. The guy smiled affectionately and said that he would go put up tents for now. Having fallen into the tent and settled down on his sleeping place, Leo realized that today was the longest day of his life. Leo was incredibly surprised when Lena quietly climbed into his tent. Having settled down next to the guy, she said that if they lay down together, it would be as if they were already married. Leo said he didn't want to live in a tent for the rest of his life, saying it was too squalid for a newlywed's home. Lena moved closer to the guy, looking at Leo with a smile, while a light blush played on her cheeks. The girl asked if Leo wanted this, and the guy immediately stood up as if scalded. He stated that they had not washed for a week and were covered in dirt, and he did not want their first time to be in such an environment. The guy suggested getting a better night's sleep, saying that he was very tired. Lena decided that he was a weakling. She did not understand how he was going to be her husband if, after a long journey, he was not even able to fulfill his marital duty. Disgruntled colleagues told them to be quiet, not understanding why these two were given a separate tent. In response to this, the guys only laughed cheerfully, forgetting about their recent skirmish. It's been 2 months now. Small but frequent clashes left scars on their souls because they saw death almost every day. Leo noted that he was good at commanding soldiers and decided that his achievements helped him in this. Pointing to the side, the men loudly announced the approach of the knights. The guy immediately ducked down, and the girl cursed briefly, dissatisfied with the fact that they were noticed. Leo's squad tightened their grip on their weapons and took a stance, preparing to defend themselves. The guy fearfully asked what they should do, but the girl already had an answer to this. She screamed and rushed into battle, immediately aiming at 2 enemy soldiers. She assured Daros that these mere foot soldiers were no match for him. She reminded the frightened and frozen guy that they were knights. Coming out of his stupor, Daros also rushed into battle, sprinkling his sword with blood on his opponents. Seeing this picture, Lena and Leo immediately looked at each other, preparing for a new blow. They simultaneously rushed into battle, choosing the guy as their target. Daros somehow repelled the attack of these two, moving to the side. The girl scolded the guy with displeasure, reminding him that he can cope with 5. The guy responded by assuring General Katrina that these two were not ordinary soldiers. Hearing the girl's name, Leo couldn't believe his ears because it was Katrina who killed Lena. The guy will never forget this name, because Katrina was Lena's enemy. Leo rushed into battle with renewed vigor, furiously attacking Daros. From the force with which their swords crossed, sparks flew around. Lena took advantage of the fact that the guy was keeping Leo busy and attacked from the side, wanting to take the enemy by surprise. Daros barely had time to dodge, jumping away from the girl to a safe distance. The guy froze in alarm when he heard the command for other soldiers to attack them. They immediately began to carry out the order, pushing Daryl and Katrina back. The girl angrily ordered the guy to stop fooling around, but he hastened to assure that he was not doing this. Daryl froze, turning his gaze to the frozen soldier who was tightly clutching his sword. A moment later, the soldier rushed forward with a scream, straight at the guy, raising his sword high to strike. Daryl managed to react in time, cutting ahead before the soldier reached him. Leo tightened his grip on his sword, knowing it was time. Sweat ran down the boys' faces as they stepped into the fray again, wielding their blades furiously. Lena watched the fight from a certain distance, trying to guess the moment for the right blow. Rushing forward, the girl raised her sword, striking her opponent in the shoulder, which was not protected by armor. Daryl managed to throw Lena back before she could push the weapon deeper. The guy grimaced with displeasure, feeling the blood flowing out of the open wound. Hesitating and distracted by the girl, Daryl did not notice Leo approaching. The guy managed to knock the enemy to the ground, dealing him a fatal blow. The system reported the achievement 1 knight, which meant that the guy's strength in battle with knights was increasing. Leo noted that knights are fighters of a completely different level. They barely defeated the weakest of the two with 5 of them. Katrina, meanwhile, continued to fiercely fight off the opponents advancing on her. Her eyes filled with anger when she saw Daros's body on the ground. The girl tightened her grip on her sword, jumping high into the air, wanting to avenge her fallen comrade. With incredible anger and force, Katrina began to knock down everyone in her path, scattering the soldiers in different directions. Leo stopped, asking the girl if she really was Katrina. Having straightened her hair, which had become disheveled during the fight, the girl confirmed that it was she and asked how the guy knew her. Leo remembered that last time Lena died around this time. He couldn't even think that he would be able to come face to face with Lena's killer. Katrina sternly asked who killed Daros, a guy or a girl. Leo rushed forward, throwing a punch and saying with satisfaction that it was him. They say that mana is the energy of the gods. It is everywhere. So in theory, any person can learn to accumulate mana and become a magician. However, by the time a person reaches the expert level, he is already old and infirm. Therefore, the rapid absorption of mana is a special talent. Katrina was incredibly surprised by the guy's skills. The girl barely managed to repel his attack, somehow maintaining her balance and staying on her feet. She noted that the guy was not very good with a sword, but he had a lot of experience from somewhere. Katrina was incredibly surprised that the guy became an expert at that age. She assumed that this was why Daros could not survive, and if she was not careful, she would die immediately. Leo was surprised to notice that his punches seemed to get stronger, guessing it was because of the achievement. Katrina noted that he was not bad for a simple soldier, but time was against the guy. The girl angrily promised that she would unleash all her power on him. Katrina rushed at Leo with incredible speed, causing him to freeze for a second in surprise. Leo managed to repel the attack, continuing to fiercely cross swords with the enemy, causing calves to fly in different directions. The guy happily noted that Katrina opened up when she raised her sword for the next blow. Lena decided to take advantage of this by bursting into the fray, which Katrina did not expect. But the girl did not retreat. She had to take Daros's body with her. With the last of her strength, Katrina managed to repel the attacks of two attackers at once. The girl jumped up, about to strike from the air, but Lena managed to defend herself. Katrina quite noticed that the girl would be weaker than the guy. The girl focused her attention on Lena, continuing to strike her countless blows. Leo froze in surprise as he noticed that Katrina's sword had found its target. Despite the injury, Lena did not stop, striking back at the enemy. Leo immediately rushed towards them, helping the girl push Katrina to the ground. The guy pinned the enemy to the ground, not allowing her to grab the sword, and ordered Lena to hurry. The girl grabbed the sword and delivered the final blow, causing Katrina's hand to relax, releasing her weapon. Lena smiled contentedly that they were able to do this. Now they themselves have become knights. The girl barely had time to finish this and collapsed exhaustedly to the ground. 2 weeks later, the boys sat in a military camp, still recovering from the recent skirmish. Since the church opposed the war, they were unable to gain the support of a priest. Lena worriedly asked the guy how he was. Leo, surprised that she kept thinking about others, asked if she herself was okay. The girl hastened to assure that she was already much better. Leo said that the prince was coming soon. The girl considered this great news. Lena asked if it was true that the guy was going to return. Leo confirmed that he asked to return home. Unexpectedly, the girl admitted that she also wanted to return home. The guy who approached called the talking guys, saying that an officer was calling them. The man asked if they had heard that the prince was coming to them. He added that awards would be given out tomorrow after the parade, and the officer wanted to commend the two. Leo was immediately delighted, thanking him for such recognition. The officer added that only Leo would go on stage, without the girl. The guy was immediately indignant at this. He didn't understand why. The man explained that morale would drop if a soldier with a serious arm injury came on stage. Leo immediately angrily stated that they caught the two knights only thanks to Lena, and if she does not receive the reward, then he also refuses. The girl hastened to assure Leo that everything was fine, which surprised him very much. The man continued to say that, of course, he recognizes their achievements, but the guy no longer listened to him. Taking the girl by the arm, he walked away from the tent, despite the officer's screams. The herald announced the arrival of His Highness Prince Arnold de Claus. All the soldiers immediately bowed in respect as the prince climbed onto the platform. Leo received an achievement for meeting the prince for the first time and a small thank you from all the nobility. Taking the stage, the prince proclaimed that the Claus family would not forget the dedication of the fighters who sacrificed themselves for the sake of the kingdom. He ensured that everyone here would receive their rewards, and Lena began pushing Leo to come forward. Coming out to the prince, the guy knelt down, and Arnold, placing him on his shoulders, dedicated Leo Dexter to an honorary knight. Lena stood in the crowd, ignoring the uproar, and looked at the guy. The girl said that she would try to learn how to cook when she returned. Leo was very surprised by this. Lena admitted that she wants to open a small shop where she will sell simple dishes and drinks. Leo thought she would do better with drinks, but Lena said she would do well with snacks. The guy asked if she would feed him for free, and she assured that, of course. Lena added that everything would be free for friends, and the guy frowned for a second at these words. But the very next moment he laughed cheerfully, saying that this would make her go bankrupt. Lena said that with the money she received as a reward, she could afford to fail, to which Leo teased her that she was going to fail several times at once. So they returned home, chatting happily all the way. The parents immediately rushed to meet the girl, barely noticing her approach. Lena, also unable to hold back her tears, threw herself into their tight embrace. Leo also approached his father, but their reunion was calmer and less emotional. And yet, the men hugged each other, glad that the long separation was over and they were reunited again. The guy noted that, despite the victory, they returned with the gloomy look of defeated soldiers. Lena asked if she should try holding the sword with one hand. The guy agreed, adding that he was also thinking about practicing with a sword and shield. He invited her to try, but Lena said that if she had a shield, then she was a loser. In response, the girl suggested that everything be fair, and they both would be without a shield. Smiling briefly, the guy still agreed to this proposal. They both took a stance opposite each other, holding a sword in their hands. Lena screamed and rushed into battle, but Leo easily blocked her blow with his sword. They continued to cross swords, the girl mostly attacking, and the guy retreating or defending. Lena struck again with all her might, which even caused sparks to come from the sword, but Leo managed to repel this attack. The girl stopped, exhausted from the battle, her whole body trembling from tension. Seeing this, Leo threw away his sword, enveloping Lena in a hug. The girl pulled away and Leo saw her red, tear-stained face. Unexpectedly, the guy proposed to Lena to get married. Lena immediately pulled away, throwing away her sword and walked away from Leo. The guy tried to stop her, asking the girl to answer him. Gritting her teeth and somehow holding back the approaching tears, Lena hissed that she didn't want to. Leo asked why because he didn't understand it. Turning sharply, the girl, no longer holding back the tears flowing in a stream, ordered to look at her. She turned away again, not wanting to show her weakness, and declared that in this state she did not want to get married. Through sobs, the girl said that she did not need Leo's pity. The guy tried to calm her down, but Lena broke out again, asking why he needed her like that. Without listening to anything else, Leo squeezed her tightly in his arms, not allowing her to escape, and declared that it didn't matter. He looked closely at the girl and said that he only needed her. Leo pressed Lena to him, planted a kiss on her lips, and admitted that he loved her. The system congratulated the guy on marrying Lena and thanked him for the game. The girl melted before our eyes, leaving Leo standing alone in a place already familiar to him. Looking at the end screen, the guy was glad that Lena was smiling in it. Leo was glad that at least this time the girl didn't die. He was glad that this time they had a happy ending. Leo made the girl happy and took revenge on Katrina, even though he failed to raise Lena. Seeing that he had received the combat equipment skill, the guy noted that it would be better if this equipment was given to Lena. In the end, she realized that raising Lena was too difficult a task. He really missed his parents in Cheha, and all he wanted now was to make Lena happy. Leo found himself in an alley that was already familiar to him, and the girl leaning against him said that she was hungry and thirsty. The guy squeezed the bag tightly in his hand, as if afraid that someone would take it away. Helping Lena get up, he said that they would now go look for something to eat. He remembered the past events of this plot and did not want them to repeat themselves. The guy understood that after dawn they would have nothing to eat. In addition, they had no drinking water at all, which was also very bad. Looking around, the girl did not notice that Leo had stopped and painfully flew into his back. They both stopped, frozen in front of the man who looked at them with displeasure, clutching a bat in his hands. He sternly warned them to leave from here if they did not want to get hurt. Leo took out a few coins from the bag and handed them to the man, asking if it would be enough for food. The man immediately smiled contentedly, realizing that these were guests, and asked if they needed to pack food with them. The guy said that they wanted to eat here, and the seller noted that it would be a little more expensive. Leo poured a few more coins into his palm and asked if that would be enough. At first, the man didn't want to let them in because of their appearance, but then he offered to go inside because there was no one there now. Lena asked her brother in surprise where he got the money. The guy admitted that he was saving for a rainy day, and the girl asked if this was the money he had promised to give her. Lena immediately asked where he got them, saying that she also wanted to buy a house. This made Leo decide that the girl did not have a very good education. The guy decided that he would try to save a little money and train Lena, despite the fact that this scenario was initially difficult. A few minutes later, the man returned, placing a roasted ham in front of the guys. Leo and Lena's mouth watered at the sight of such delicious food. Perrin understood that this time the main thing for them was at least to survive. At the end of each game, a reward was given: hunting, sword skill, initial capital, rules of behavior in the alley, and combat skills. In addition, before this there were also various achievements that the guy managed to accumulate. Leo understood that he was not yet strong enough and would not yet be able to protect Lena. He decided to abandon the idea of beating the game for now and aim for a happy ending. Looking around the corner, the guy realized in frustration that he was not here either. Lena did not understand where they were going. Smiling contentedly, Leo said that they were going home. Lena was incredibly surprised that they were heading home. Patting the girl on the head, Leo said with a smile that he meant their house. Remembering the woman who helped them last time, the guy decided that the person who showed kindness without asking for anything in return would let them in. The guys stopped abruptly when they heard someone address them. A group of guys appeared in front of them, and their leader rudely asked why the two of them were walking here. He was unhappy that they were eating without them, considering it narcissistic. Leo asked what exactly was wrong, because they left as soon as they arrived. One of the guys was about to rush into battle, dissatisfied with Leo's answer, but the leader stopped him. He calmly told the guy not to be so angry and to pull himself together. He said displeasedly that they were breaking the rules. Leo had no idea what kind of rules he was talking about. Another guy said that beggars should live with beggars and hang around there. The leader calmly explained that newcomers have the right to make mistakes and should not be frightened. Leo promised that they would leave now. The guy said that they were looking for someone and asked if they knew where the street was where they sold oil and leather. The guys were surprised to hear about the leather street. One of them asked if Uncle Ober was there. One of them told them to walk along the street until they see the southern gate, and then they need to turn right into the alley. Leo thanked them and said that then they would go. The guy threateningly said that if they were lying, he would not forgive them. Leo didn't understand at all what was the point of fighting with beggars. He thought that he would get the 10 beggars achievement. Having followed the indicated route, Leo was glad that he had found what he was looking for. Seeing the woman, the guy recognized her as the one who helped them last time. After staring for a few seconds, Leo tried to understand what she was doing. The woman did not make shoes, nor did she sell them. Her shop was quite far away and it seemed like she never even had guests. The guys froze abruptly when the front door suddenly opened in front of them. The woman briefly invited them to come in so that they would not loiter around here with nothing to do. Leo apologized for disturbing him as he hesitantly walked inside the shop. Returning back to the counter, Cassia asked if they wanted to buy something. She noted that judging by their appearance, they could use some new shoes. But, as the woman suggested, they apparently did not have the money for this purchase. She apologized, admitting that she does not do charity work. Leo said that they did not need charity and asked the lady to shelter them for a few days. He dumped a handful of coins on the table, declaring that if she needed money, he had some. After spinning the coin between her fingers, Cassia replied that she didn't know who he stole it from, but told him to keep the money with him. She stated that she was not at all interested in babysitting children. Then Leo asked for at least some water, saying that his sister needed to wash herself. The woman nodded to the side, pointing that there is water and towels they can use. She warned them not to spill everything. Leo noted that everything here was the same as last time. Lena squatted down in front of the tub, and the guy began to help her wash the dirt off her face. The girl was fooling around, gurgling water, and Leo sternly told her to stop doing it. After wiping Lena's face, the guy showed Cassia what she really looked like. He once again asked the lady if they could stay. The woman noted that Lena was very beautiful and asked if she was talking, to which the girl immediately replied that yes. She seemed attentive and obedient to Cassia. The woman decided that the guy did not want to drag his sister with him through the streets, and therefore he needed to leave her with someone. Lena immediately protested, but the guy promised that he would not leave her alone. Leo said that the girl needed a home. She couldn't go out alone, and he needed to work. They just needed a place to stay for the night and a place to wash. He begged the woman to let Lena stay, but she did not understand why she needed a girl. Leo knelt down, begging Cassia for help. The guy offered her a favor for a favor, and this made the woman think for a while. After a couple of moments, she finally agreed, saying that she still had one free room. The guy immediately began to thank Cassia, promising that he would never forget her kindness. The woman held up the coin, saying that she would take this much and warned that sometimes she would need more, so Leo would have to save from his salary. Cassia pointed to the pantry, telling them that they could take as much food as they wanted, and the water was delivered in the morning by a water carrier, so they didn't have to worry about that. She let them sleep on a cot in the closet. Leo thanked the woman, asking if they could help her with anything. She introduced herself as Cassia, although the guy already knew that. The woman added that there was no mistress, so they would just call her Cassia. Leo smiled in agreement and once again spoke about how much they were grateful to her. The guy introduced himself that his name was Leo, and this was his sister Lena, and noted that they were very pleased to meet each other. The woman just nodded in response, looking somewhere to the side, and Leo followed her gaze in surprise. The guy didn't understand where she was looking, admitting that she was strange as always. Trembling from overexertion, Leo fetched a tub, telling Lena that he had brought water. The girl immediately began to undress, causing the guy to scream in surprise. Lena didn't understand what was wrong, and Leo said that she couldn't just take off her clothes in front of him. The girl folded her clothes and put them on the bed, demonstrating this to her brother. Leo said that he did not mean that clothes should be folded neatly. He turned around, saying that he would wait outside the door while Lena washed herself. Pressing his back against the door, the guy decided that he should teach her everything as soon as possible. Now the girl needed not so much a teacher as a parent. He asked Lena how old she was. She will be an adult in just a couple of years, but now she acts like a girl. There was only a year difference between her and the previous Lena, but it was still of great importance in what environment the child grew up. Lena said that she had finished, and the guy hesitantly asked if he could come in. Leo immediately froze in surprise when he saw the girl in a new outfit. Lena smiled contentedly and said that now it was her brother's turn to wash. The guy once again told her to remember that from now on, she could not undress in front of him. The girl sincerely did not understand why. Leo explained that showing his body to others is indecent and shameful, to which the girl stated that he was her brother and not others. The guy agreed with this, but still said that he didn't need to show it either. He said that they now had a room and ordered them to change clothes and wash only when no one was around. Leo said that he would then wash himself and asked the girl to wait outside the door. Lena agreed and immediately hurried to run out the door. Leo stopped in front of the man, wondering if he needed a worker. The guy admitted that she is not very strong yet, but he assured that he would definitely try. Leo walked down the street frustrated, unhappy that he was turned down again. In previous times in this scenario, he had always managed to get a job in a tool shop thanks to his dexterity. But this time, his Leo has no skills, no muscles. The only thing he is given is a good face. In other words, he is useless. The guy immediately ordered himself not to become limp and to pull himself together. Leo reminded himself that he must help Lena marry the prince. He decided that he should first hire her a tutor so that she could learn the basics of the necessary sciences. He was sure that the aristocrats would be at the feet of such a beauty and clever woman. The guy stopped, thinking about what he should do. Since the last game, he had two skills, hunting and fencing, but there were no forests or mountains near Orville, and the life of a mercenary would force him to leave Lena, which he really did not want to do. The guy stopped, refusing to believe that these were all options. He continued to walk slowly forward along the street, contemplating his next step, tossing a coin from time to time. A man appeared from around the corner and stopped Leo, saying that he had a conversation with him. The guy grinned contentedly, glad that his idea was a success. Having dragged Leo into an alley, the man asked what he thought of himself, that he was walking around here without a weapon, without fear. He menacingly asked if the coins were jingling in his pocket. The man tried to grab the guy, noting that he had too much money for a beggar. Leo ducked down quickly and then elbowed the man in the stomach as hard as he could. He groaned in pain, bent in half. The other robbers were wary, not expecting this. Without hesitation or wasting an opportunity, Leo kicked the second robber in the face. One of the guys pulled out a small dagger, outraged by Leo's behavior. The guy admitted that in this scenario he was frail and weak. In the scenario with Lena Einar, he trained like hell every day. Leo said that now he won't even need a weapon. For scoundrels like these robbers, he wouldn't even need his swordsmanship. Leo punched his attacker in the jaw with all his might, not even allowing him to react. The guy took the dagger from the defeated robber and began to meticulously examine it. The trembling man quietly hissed that the guy wouldn't just get away with this. Leo smiled slyly and assured that he had no doubt about it. Turning to the man and threatening him with a dagger, he decided that perhaps he had better leave no witnesses. Leo threw the bag up, pleased that he managed to get 2 daggers and a dozen coppers. He thought that this was good money for fast work, but he understood that robbing thieves was not the most profitable business. Leo knew full well that the real money was in the mafia. The guy glanced at the newcomer, saying that they were closing soon. Without saying a word, Leo jerked the dagger to the guy's throat. He immediately got scared and in fear asked who sent him. Leo noted with satisfaction that he knew that this was not an ordinary worker. The guy told him to calm down first and said that he had a conversation. Leo was sure that his instincts were correct, because in the last scenario, it was not for nothing that he was dragged to the stable. The mafia needed horse-drawn delivery services to move illegal goods. The guy could safely assume that every trucking service in this city was bought up by the mafia. The man who entered rudely asked what was going on here. The guy immediately babbled that he didn't know what this ragamuffin needed, saying that he just burst in here. The man decided that this was a new way for beggars to beg, and warned the guy to put the knife away, otherwise it would hurt. Leo threw the bloody things in front of the man, saying that they were from 3 robbers in a back alley west of the market. He asked whether such an entrance fee would suit them. Still not removing the dagger from the guy's throat, Leo said that he would return here tomorrow. He invited the man to check for now whether he told them the truth. Going inside, Leo examined himself, hoping that the blood did not get on his shirt. He finally decided it would be best to take it all off just in case. Lena immediately asked with displeasure why her brother returned so late. The guy apologized, saying that he was just looking for a job. The girl asked why he was undressing, and Leo couldn't come up with anything better than to say that he was just too hot. Lena gloomily noted that her brother was probably very tired, but the guy hastened to assure that it was not difficult. Leo asked what the girl herself was doing today, and she replied that she was just sitting in the room. The guy said that he would go wash himself and asked his sister to wait for him. He noted that the girl was somehow depressed and decided that he would need to bring her some kind of gift tomorrow. Stretching his shoulders that were stiff after sleep, Leo decided that Lena needed to find some kind of tutor. However, the guy had no idea where to look for that same tutor. He asked a passing woman if she knew where he could find a teacher at home, but she replied that she had no idea. The man who approached asked if the guy was looking for a teacher. Leo asked if he knew anyone. The man said that for a small fee, he was ready to find a teacher who met the necessary requirements. The guy said that he needed someone honest and who didn't care what his student looked like, preferably someone of advanced age. He added that he did not need to be highly qualified, just an ordinary teacher, and it also has to be a woman. Thus, the guy managed to find a suitable teacher for Lena. Leo asked how the first lesson went and whether the girl was doing well. The woman said that his sister was such a beauty, and she understood why he chose her as a teacher. The woman assured that she would not tell anyone about this young lady. She said that she would come to Lena twice a week. Leo thanked her by giving her money for textbooks and a month's salary. Cassia, who was watching all this, noted that the guy is a very good brother. Leo didn't answer anything, only said that he would go on business. The woman asked if he had already found a job. Leo answered evasively that he could say so and went about his business. The guy led him to an inconspicuous building, telling him that it was here. Going inside, he told the boss that he had brought yesterday's candidate. He was sitting at the table, scribbling something on paper with a pen, but when he heard those entering, he immediately stopped what he was doing. The man said that he had heard about the guy, but he admitted that he did not expect him to be so frail. He assured that he would be pleased to meet the guy, admitting that not everyone with such a physique could knock out 3 bandits, suggesting that the guy was quite gifted. Leo assured that he had no talents, but the man said with a grin that they would see about that. He ordered the guy to follow him, saying that he needed to see what he was capable of. The man decided that Leo was wielding a dagger, but he replied that he preferred a 2-handed sword. The man whistled in surprise, suggesting that the guy was the son of some knight. Having gone inside some shack, the man said contentedly that he knew he would find them here. The men immediately jumped up, bowing before the master and apologizing. He assured that he was not here to scold them. The man ordered to bring him wooden swords, one longer and heavier. He told Diol that he should test the new guy. The man immediately began to carry out the instructions. With a wry smile, he asked the guy to show them what he could do. Leo grabbed the offered sword, taking a stance in front of his attacker, preparing to fight. The guy understood that if he lost, he wouldn't get out of here alive. Sitting down next to him, the man said that he allowed them to fight at full strength. The guy knew that a 2-handed sword was good for attack, but it was much more difficult to defend with it. Realizing that he had no other option, Leo decided to strike first. The blow came hard, but the man managed to block it, staying on his feet. Leo hastened to strike the next blow, and then noticed with satisfaction that the enemy had opened up. The guy hit the unprotected knee with a swing, catching the man by surprise. The enemy knelt and Leo put the sword to his throat. The man had no choice but to admit that he had lost. The leader congratulated the guy on his victory and said that he was now a member of La Familia Corolla. Lena sat on the bed, sadly noting that her brother had not returned home today. She kept wondering what kind of work this was. The girl noted that when Leo returned for the last time, there was blood on his clothes, and among his things she found a bloody dagger. Cassia, in a conversation with Lena, suggested that the guy joined the mafia. Lena had no idea what exactly this meant. The woman tried to explain that these are the kind of people who carry swords and fight. Cassia noted that it turns out it's not that dangerous. Lena asked if it was difficult to be in the mafia, to which the woman stated that in nature there is no such thing as difficult work. The woman knocked briefly, walking inside and greeting the girl. Lena was very happy about the teacher's arrival and immediately ran to meet her. The woman asked if the girl had done her homework and she answered yes. Noticing Lena's gloomy appearance, the teacher asked why she was so sad. The girl hesitantly asked the woman what the mafia was. The teacher said that this is what they call those who steal or intentionally harm people. She said that the mafia are very bad people. The girl was upset that because of her, her brother had to do such terrible things. Lena decided that in this case she should also help her brother. Meanwhile, in La Corolla Familia's apartment, they were discussing the news that the Prince of the Kingdom of Aston himself would come to them. The man said that he learned this from their contact in the north. Now it became clear to them why security at the northern gates had been strengthened in recent days. Thanks to the guy's achievements in the last scenario, the prince will have a good attitude towards him. His arrival will be a big event in the game. This is a rare occasion when the heir to the throne comes to visit another country. The guy asked his friends why the prince was coming here at all. The man cheerfully replied that he had no idea and assumed that he had come to woo their princess. He noticed that they say that Princess Chloe is a noble beauty and admitted that he would not refuse such a wife. The guy wondered what about the game event War? Does it really appear only in the scenario with Lena Einar? The engagement scenario with Lena Einar begins in winter, and all the others begin in summer. If it's the same year, then in this scenario the war will start next spring. The guy wondered whether there would be a war in the scenario with a brother and sister, or whether all the scenarios were interconnected. If so, then at the same time other Leo and Lena live in both the village of Demos and the Avril Castle. The guy decided that first he had to make sure that there would really be a war. The prince, along with a huge column of accompanying people, solemnly entered the gates of the city. Leo noted that this was the same prince he saw in the last scenario. A woman standing nearby enthusiastically and loudly asked the prince to wave to them. The guy wondered whether the resulting favor effect would work on the prince. Noticing that the prince did not pay any attention to him, Leo decided that this effect was not so effective. The prince himself came to Orville, but he could not do anything. A week later, the carriage was moving peacefully along the street under the cover of darkness. Suddenly, the driver fell dead to the ground, causing the other men to immediately become alarmed. The guy threateningly asked how they dare steal from the Corolla family. The man noted that he was alone and asked what such a boy could do to them. The guy immediately moved from his spot, attacking the thieves one by one so quickly that they didn't even have time to react. The man praised Leo for his excellent work, informing him that he was owed beer. The guy, wiping the blood from his face, only replied that it was his job. The man recalled that the boss told them to be quieter than water because they were smart. The other objected that the prince had already left. Leo was shocked by the news that the prince had already left. After lighting a cigarette, the man admitted that the meeting went badly because no one could have thought that Princess Chloe was so promiscuous. It turned out that their princess was secretly dating the son of Count Herman, so her chastity had long been blown away by the wind. The guy inquired about the famous swordmaster in question. The man said that his daughter, who was considered a model of piety, got involved with the notorious scoundrel. They decided that the king was having a hard time right now, but Leo wondered if it was the same Gilbert Foray they were talking about. Count Herman Fowler is a famous swordsman and politician in the kingdom of Veleta. But his son Gilbert grew up to be a scoundrel and a rake, and Leo had no idea what was going on here. The man shared that they say that the princess even had the audacity to kiss Gilbert in the presence of the prince, noting that living beautifully cannot be forbidden. The guy realized that everything was even worse than he thought. The prince had been given a terrible insult, and the king of Astina would not just leave it like that. The guy was glad that he did not go to work in the city guard. So Leo learned about how the upcoming war would begin. The mystery of the emerging conflict has been revealed. The consequences of this conflict even affected the criminal environment. Leo peeked around the corner, hearing the conversation of men who complained that it was almost impossible to get weapons now. The guy looked at the leader, nodded to each other, and he commanded full speed ahead. The team immediately rushed to attack. The men immediately raised the alarm due to the appearance of strangers. La Berza, a family involved in illegal arms trafficking, suddenly rose due to demand. The La Corolla surname had long-standing scores with the La Berza surname due to the slave trade and had a need for weapons, so it was decided to strike. Having burst into the warehouse, the men were surprised that all their supplies were here. The commander briefly ordered them to take everything. Suddenly, one of the opponents grabbed his axe and shouted, "Die!" Rushed straight at the man. Leo reacted the fastest, knocking the weapon away from his opponent, preventing him from striking. Grabbing an axe, Leo himself attacked the enemy, a trickle of the vanquished blood staining his face. For this, the guy received an achievement, becoming stronger in the fight against robbers. The man breathed a sigh of relief, thanking Leo for his help. He admitted that until that moment he suspected the guy, but now he denied all his suspicions. Now Leo has proven with blood that he belongs to the La Corolla surname. The guy stopped abruptly when he heard someone call out to him, calling him a robber. The man waved his hand, asking Leo to come to him. The guy wondered if this man's last name was Lano, placing a warning hand on the hilt of the dagger. Leo noted that they never tried to talk to him and asked what the man needed. He replied that there were rumors that Leo was Cassia's lover, but that did not matter. The man asked simply not to bring such people into their area, and Leo, meanwhile, turned his attention to the stranger who was peeking around the corner. The guy decided that someone from La Berza was on his tail. He was surprised that the man was asking Cassia about him. He replied that a robber from a different family, armed with a dagger, was walking around their territory. He had to ask who he was to Cassia. Leo apologized for causing trouble and promised that he would be more careful. The man added that Cassia is a good girl who has been through a lot and asked the guy not to offend her. He noted that the woman began studying with a tutor, delighted that she was slowly gaining a desire to live. Leo continued to look at the man in amazement for some time, even though he said that the guy could already go. Entering the building, Leo immediately announced his arrival. The woman noted that he had not been seen for a long time. Leo immediately asked if it was true that Cassia was telling people that he was her lover. The woman immediately realized that Oberg had stopped him on the street and admitted that she had a better excuse. Running her hand over Leo's face, Cassia added that she actually really liked him. The guy immediately received the achievement, The Man Who Melted Cassia's Heart, which he was incredibly surprised by. Hearing strange sounds, Lena came out into the corridor, delighted that her brother had returned. Leo immediately rushed to his sister, admitting that he missed her very much. He asked what the girl was doing here without him, apologizing for the fact that he had been gone for a long time, but adding that he had brought sweets. Cassia looked at her brother and sister with a frown. Leo asked if everything was okay here, and the girl nodded briefly in response. Then the guy asked Lena about her progress in her studies. He apologized and said that he would have to go back to work for a long time. The guy added that even if he cannot come home often, Lena still needs to study well. The girl anxiously asked what kind of wound was on her brother's face. Leo assured that he just got a little scratched at work and there was nothing wrong. Lena in response asked her brother to stop doing bad things. The guy tightened his grip on the strap of his bag, not understanding what exactly the girl meant. Leo noticed with satisfaction that he earned so much. The guy promised that when they corrected the swap situation, he would quit this job, assuring that it would be soon. Leo asked the girl not to worry about him because she needed to study and promised that he would return soon. Lena only thought that she had become a burden to her brother and should help him. Cassia was minding her own business when she heard the girl leave the room, addressing her. Lena asked if the woman would go outside. Cassia admitted that she really had to go out to run some errands. The girl immediately asked if she could help with anything. The woman didn't understand why she needed this. Lena admitted that she did not want to be a burden to her brother because it was difficult for him because of her. Cassia noted that there was nothing wrong with this. He didn't ask the girl to help him. Lena replied that she didn't want to just watch the guy suffer because of her. She wanted to be useful to him. Cassia asked what would change if Lena worked and earned money. If Leo asks her to study, then she should do it, because that's how she can be useful to her brother. And besides, Lena doesn't know how to do anything. The girl admitted that Cassia was right. She doesn't know how to do anything except look for scraps in the trash. All she can earn are pitiful crumbs that won't change anything. Rising from her seat, Cassia asked if she had said everything. Unexpectedly, Lena told the woman that she wanted to buy a house. Lena said that this was her dream, a beautiful house in which she and her brother would live together. She said that she also wants to be useful. Cassia summed up that the girl is doing this not so much for her brother's sake, but rather she wants to be independent and do what she wants. Lena immediately said that if she could buy them a house, her brother would be happy about it, to which Cassia added that she did not blame her at all. The woman admitted that she also had a moment in her life when she helped a man from the bottom of her heart, although for her, it ended in tears. Cassia suggested that the girl find something to do according to her strengths. Lena was very grateful to her. The woman asked if she wanted to go today, and the girl immediately agreed. He handed Lena a cloak, and Cassia asked her to put it on. The girls, hiding their faces, went out into the city, turning into a boring alley. The girl looked around carefully, trying to figure out where they were. The men immediately began pestering the girls, calling them beauties and asking them to play with them. Cassia snuggled closer to the girl, not paying any attention to them. Arriving at the right place, they stopped in front of a tall building. The man asked in surprise what kind of child this was. Cassia sternly replied that this child had come with her and told the man to open the door. He said that he did not know who this girl was if she was dressed like that. After thinking a little, he finally allowed the girls to go inside. Lena froze in surprise, examining the interior decoration and the gathered people. Cassia pushed the girl forward, telling her that there she was. The man opened the door for them, inviting them inside the office. The stranger, seeing Mrs. Cassia, immediately stood up and broke into a satisfied smile. He noted that they had arrived early, but the woman only sternly reminded him not to call her madam. The man immediately apologized, saying that it was just his habit. Turning his attention to the girl, the man asked Cassia who she was. Taking off Lena's hood, the woman said that this was the same girl. After waiting for the man to look at her a little, Cassia asked if they would accept the girl. The man replied that he did not know where the woman found her, but said that she could not work here. He noted that Lena was too good for this establishment and told the woman to talk to the owner. Cassia displeasedly asked if he could at least decide something on his own, or if he would just ask the boss for permission for any reason. Having calmed down, the woman added that if they don't need the girl, then they will go. She still has somewhere to go. The man asked them to wait, saying that he simply wanted to make them a more generous offer. He asked Cassia what exactly she expected from them. The woman said that Lena should work in an establishment where there is no shack rap and only the most respectable clients, and she also demanded an annual salary in advance. The man said that he could give more and offered to multiply it 10 times. Lena did not believe that she would really be paid that much. The man noted that it would be impossible to keep rumors about such beauty. They would spread like wildfire and clients would line up. He asked if the girl would be able to start work tomorrow. Cassia said that Lena would not sign the contract, she would only earn a living and then leave. The woman added that she did not want Lena to be tied to this business for many years, as happened with her. The man assured that they should not worry and added that the work was not difficult. Lena remembered how Leo told her that he had to go to work for a long time again. As he asked her, he still studies well even if he cannot come home often. The girl decided that she could do it, since her brother was already exhausting himself for her sake. Lena said that she will do what the woman wants from her. She is ready. The man was glad to hear this. He introduced himself as Breton Sauer and noted that he would consider it an honor to work with the girl. The man gallantly kissed her hand. The stunned girl introduced herself as Lena. Cassia hoped that the girl would not suffer her fate, but the man only thought that if she had signed the contract, she would have received much more money. In the end, he decided that this was a benefit for them, and the boss would be happy with such a deal. A month later, the Mafia war ended. The leaders decided not to bring the bloodshed to an end and made peace. La Berza Familia agreed to distance itself from the slave trade, and La Corolla Familia not to interfere with illegal arms trafficking. Leo became the captain of the assault troops. He wanted to ask to take Lena under protection. The guy returned home, loudly announcing his return. Cassia sat in her usual place, gloomily looking towards the guy who had entered. Although Leo thought she was a strange woman, she seemed pretty good to him. If everything goes on like this, then his Leo will be able to get along with Cassia after all the events. Lena's voice was heard from behind the door, asking her brother to come to her. Leo happily hurried to his sister, beaming with a cheerful smile. The girl happily admitted that she wanted to show her brother something. She took out a small box, opening it in front of the guy, showing a handful of gold coins. Leo could not understand what it was, to which Lena joyfully stated that she had earned money, and noted that Cassia said that with this money, you could buy a very nice house. Leo received the manager achievement, thanks to which his subordinates now brought in more income. The guy immediately asked Lena in fear what she had done. Leo immediately and demandingly asked Lena what she was doing here without his knowledge. The frightened girl babbled that she just earned some money. The guy immediately turned to Cassia, demanding an explanation of where this money came from. Lena didn't understand why her brother was yelling at her. Leo demanded that the woman answer immediately what she made Lena do. Cassia calmly asked what was wrong with that, saying that she was just showing the girl how to make money. Lena didn't understand why her brother was so angry. She thought that he was a reserved and kind boy. Cassia calmly asked what was wrong with making money. Leo didn't understand whether she was serious or mocking. The guy grabbed the woman by the collar in anger, and the frightened Lena immediately tried to stop him, saying that Cassia had not done anything wrong. Lifting the woman off the floor, Leo cried out in displeasure that he asked the woman to shelter her sister in her house, and she forced her to work. Because of Cassia, all his plans went to waste. Lena immediately rushed to collect the coins she had earned scattered on the floor. She was upset that her brother did this to her money because he had no idea what she had to go through for it. Lena shouted, forcing her brother to pay attention to herself, that Cassia did not force her. She went there herself. Leo had tears in his eyes. He didn't understand why the girl was doing this. Lena bitterly asked why her brother was crying, why he was angry with her. She didn't understand what was wrong, why the guy was allowed to go out but that he understood more than she did. Lena angrily asked what she had done to deserve such words addressed to her. Covering her face with her hands and trying to cope with sobs, the girl assured that she had not done anything wrong. Lena suddenly froze, deciding that perhaps her brother no longer needed her. The girl abruptly jumped up and, shouting to Leo that she hated him, ran away. The guy immediately rushed after her, asking her to stop, but Lena told him to leave her alone. Suddenly, someone's hand appeared in front of Leo, blocking his path, and a male voice asked what he had done here. The man said that Leo was not at home and told him to stop yelling at the whole street. Taking out a dagger and threatening the stranger, the guy strictly ordered him to get out of the way. The man froze in fear, and Leo Barga waved his weapon, repeating that he should get out of the way if he wants to live. The man froze in amazement, deciding that the guy was completely out of his mind. His comrades immediately rushed to the boss, not understanding what was happening. The man told Leo to drop the knife and not take sin to his soul, adding that if it weren't for Cassia, he wouldn't have warned him. The guy squeezed the dagger tighter and repeated again in a steely voice for the man to get out of the way. Leo rushed forward sharply, wanting to strike, but the enemy managed to react, covering himself. The other man immediately kicked the guy in the back, causing Leo to fall flat on the ground. Two more leaned on top of the guy, not allowing him to get up. Leo gloomily noted that if he had 2 daggers, he would have cut them all by now. The man ordered his companions to hold Leo tightly and follow him. Still holding the boy tightly, the man dragged him back to Cassia. He asked the woman to explain what was happening. The woman calmly replied that Leo was angry because she got his sister a job. The man suggested that we were talking about a girl in a raincoat with whom Cassia had recently gone out and that the woman was hiding her. Cassia apologized for this and admitted that the girl was in a difficult situation and she just wanted to help her. The woman assured Oberg that these were their problems and they would deal with them themselves. Releasing the guy abruptly, causing him to fall to the floor, the man threatened that if he did something like that in their area, they would wipe out La Corolla. After Oberg left, Cassia asked why Leo was so angry. The guy didn't understand why they shouldn't be angry and asked where Lena was now. The woman assumed that she had returned to work. Leo asked Cassia why she even took the girl to that place, to which the woman replied that Lena just really wanted to help him. The guy angrily swung at the woman, saying that she should have told him about it. Cassia angrily asked what was wrong with her giving Lena the opportunity to work. She admitted that she herself went to this job to help her sick father, because if she had not done anything, her father would have died in agony. Cassia did what she had to do, but her father could not be cured, and he committed suicide. The woman decided that it would be better not to give him medicine at all, but she only prolonged his suffering. Leo gloomily stated that he did not care at all about Cassia's life circumstances. Lena was more important to him than life. He asked again why she did this to Lena. Cassia noticed that Leo had lied to the girl about what he was doing, and Lena was constantly afraid that someone would kill him while he was at work. The guy asked where the girl ran away. Cassia replied that it was too late and it didn't matter. The woman was sure that Lena would probably sign the contract now. Leo immediately asked what kind of contract it was. Cassia calmly explained that this was a work contract for several years, work under special conditions, adding that Lena was still a rare beauty. Unable to contain his emotions, the guy again rushed to Cassia, squeezing her throat with his hands. The system reported that Lena's future profession had been established, and the world around her had once again fallen into darkness. Leo froze with bulging eyes when he saw that Lena had become the owner of the tavern. The guy again began to blame himself for the girl's fate. He believed that it was all because of him. Then he suddenly realized that now there was no time for self-flagellation. He needed to have time to read as much as possible. The guy noticed that the names of the royal family were mentioned there, and decided that the right to inherit the throne took place here. He suggested that Leo and Lena were kicked out due to problems with the inheritance. Someone had a hand in this and they became beggars. Count Hermann Fauer turned his attention to Lena. It must have been the skill of the sword that succeeded in the invasion of the kingdom of Aston. Cassia ruined everything for him, both Lena's peaceful life and the guy's plan to collect more information about the prince. He promised that he would definitely take revenge on the woman. The guy and girl were again picking berries in a place already familiar to Leo. Lena was babbling something about her little sister Leslie, but Leo was hardly listening to her. This all already infuriated him, but he still decided to try to force himself to focus on passing. A new passage of the scenario began. At first, the guy was happy because he didn't know that everything would happen again. The second playthrough ended with Lena being kidnapped by a bandit on her way to Nevas. The guy didn't know what to do this time. The only thing he understood was that the princes of the Oran Kingdom were terrible. He had no idea how to make a girl from a simple village into a princess. Lena, meanwhile, said that she had heard that Saint Azra was once an ordinary farmer, but then he went to the capital of the Arche Empire. Leo thought that perhaps it was worth sending the girl to the capital's church. There was supposed to be an event with the priest. Then Lena will fulfill her dream and become a priest, but the ending will still be the same. He thought about leaving alone and gathering information, but the girl interrupted his train of thoughts. She gloomily asked what he was thinking about and whether he was listening to her at all. Leo, smiling sweetly, apologized and assured that he was just thinking about what to eat in the evening. The girl knocked briefly on the door and the guy said that he had almost finished eating and needed to wait a minute. Lena felt a little out of place because she didn't go to church for the first time. It seemed to her that lately Leo had begun to look at her completely differently, and she was afraid that the guy had noticed that she had given up. The girl wondered what he would say if he would encourage her to study to become a priest again. Lena remembered the guy's reaction when she first said that she wanted to become a priest and help people. The girl was then so passionate about her dream that she almost did not notice Leo. Priests can't get married. The guy smiled welcomingly and opened the door for Lena. He asked what brought the girl to his house. Lena noticed that the guy had a suspicious expression on his face and decided that he was trying to fool her. Leo hastened to assure that he was just glad to see the girl, to which she warned him not to do anything stupid. The guy again asked what happened. Lena, with an angelic smile, asked to go mushroom picking with her. Everything happened as usual in this scenario. Leo asked to wait a little, and literally the next moment he was already standing there collected. Lena was amazed that he got ready so quickly, but the guy just waved it off, assuring that there was nothing to get ready for. Lena again assumed that he was up to something. She was sure of it. The girl asked him to show him the bag, and Leo gloomily noted that he got ready too quickly, and Lena was too perceptive. Looking into the guy's bag, the girl was surprised that it was empty. Leo just shrugged his shoulders. The guy noted that Lena was more insightful than the others when walking with her childhood friend. Leo firmly decided that he needed to be more attentive with her. Lena suggested that maybe she should just give up. She couldn't go to the capital school and didn't want to leave her mom and dad. The girl decided that it would be great to just stay in the forest with Leo, although the guy had already heard this, but his heart still threatened to break out of his chest. Turning to the guy, Lena directly asked whether he wanted her to become a priest or not. Leo stammered and replied that it would be great if the girl stayed by his side, but he didn't want her to give up. Moving closer to Leo, Lena asked why. Trying not to pay attention to the girl's touches, the guy only asked why there were so many questions. He was bitterly aware that he would have to say goodbye to Lena. The couple was returning home when a man ran out to meet them, delighted to see them. He stated that God himself heard their prayers and the priest would take the girl to the cathedral. Lena froze in amazement, while Leo's face became like a marble mask. The guy understood that the time had come. The woman said that the village priest praised Lena very much and invited her to go with them to the cathedral. The girl did not believe that this was not a dream, and that she would really be able to go to the cathedral. Lena looked at the guy hesitantly, as if waiting for his reaction. The girl was about to say something, but Leo interrupted her, asking if he could go too. He admitted that he might not be that good in theory, but promised that he would study, adding that he really wanted to become a minister of the church. Lena was amazed by his statement, because Leo's family considered hunting a sacred matter. The woman thought for a while, remembering that she too had to go through such times, and was ready to agree. But the man interrupted her, sternly answering that this was impossible. The woman asked the gentleman why the guy couldn't join them. The man replied that this young man believed in a false god. He admitted that he had served in the South for 30 years and had already seen such a mark. Leo was a little surprised. All this time he thought it was just a tattoo. His father had the same mark, so he thought it was just a hunting tradition. The man noted that he did not know how such a person got into the village church, but his becoming a minister was contrary to all the rules. Leo remembered his father's prayer when he said that he gave his heart and mind to the god Barbados, how he asked God to accept the offerings and protect their family. Leo couldn't deny that his father truly worshipped another god. The woman sighed heavily, saying that nothing could be done, they could not go against the doctrine. Lena immediately stated that in this case she would not go either. The man did not believe that the girl would really refuse such an opportunity, but she stubbornly stated that if Leo did not go, then she would stay too. The woman said that they were leaving tomorrow morning, and although she wanted to wait until the girl changed her mind, they did not have such an opportunity. The woman decided that it was better to let them decide this in private, without adult intervention. She turned around and told the others to follow her, assuring them that they needed to talk. The guy and the girl were left standing, confused and surprised by everything that had happened. Lena immediately stated that the guy did not need to be upset. She would not go anywhere, but Leo objected that she should. Trying to hold back the tears bursting out, the guy reminded her that this was her dream. Lena immediately stated that she wanted to stay with the guy. Leo did not believe that she wanted to give up her dream for his sake, to which the girl replied that he had already sacrificed so much. Lena confidently stated that she wants to be with Leo, get married, have children, and live together. Leo turned around sharply, answering a short, "No." The girl did not understand why. The guy blinked away his tears, thought for a few moments, and then stated that it was simply too early for children. They held hands, silently looking at each other. Blushing, Leo invited the girl to spend the night together. Lena was also embarrassed, but nodded briefly in response to the proposal. The priest stood gathered by the carriage ready to set off. Noticing a guy and a girl approaching, the woman was a little surprised and asked what they had decided. Lena confidently stated that she would go with them. The woman headed towards the carriage, saying that then it was time for them to leave, but she was stopped. Lena's parents hurried towards them as fast as they could, trying to make it in time for their daughter's departure. The father handed Lena a bag of money, but the girl said that she did not need it. The mother insisted that the girl take them, just in case. The Holy Father who approached also held out the bag, making the girl greatly surprised by his appearance. He said that they collected this money to cover expenses, so Lena need not worry. Trying to hold back her tears, Lena thanked them from the bottom of her heart. She was touched by the fact that they were doing everything for her. The girl immediately rushed to say goodbye to Leo, squeezing him tightly into a hug. The rest of those gathered were dumbfounded by her behavior, considering it unacceptable for the future priestess. The woman coughed briefly into her fist, trying to get the girl's attention. She asked again if Lena was ready to leave, and she firmly stated that she was ready. Standing near the Holy Father, Leo asked him when Lena would become a priest. The man replied that it usually takes about 5 years, but Lena is smart and studied hard, so he thought about 3 years would be enough for her. The guy noted that 3 years is quite a long time. During this time, he will have to earn money and collect more information. The father noticed that the guy's hunting skills had become much better. Leo, smiling shyly, assured that he had worked very hard. Having taken a sip, the guy barely managed to swallow it, deciding that he should have taken the beer. Suddenly, the father asked what Leo thought about the god Barbados. Leo looked at his mark, which prevented him from going with Lena. He confessed to his father that he wanted to become a minister, but he was forbidden because he was a heretic. Leo said that he wanted to save money and visit Lena. The man rose from the table, silently walking towards the fireplace. Turning around, he sternly ordered his son to start selling meat tomorrow. Leo was surprised that he had to do this alone. Of course, he already sold game, but still. Looking at the back of his departing father, the guy assumed that he didn't mind. Barely carrying the huge sack on his back, Leo decided he was being too greedy. The guy stopped, deciding that he needed a little rest. He suddenly froze when he heard someone calling out to him. Gans approached and cheerfully noted that he and Leo had not seen each other for a long time. The guy handed Leo his bottle, inviting him to drink. Leo briefly replied that it was not worth it. Gans just waved his hand and said that then he would go. After looking at Gans with a suspicious look, Leo wondered what he should do with this guy. He remembered that in the last game, Gans betrayed them. Lena was kidnapped and sold. The guy wondered why he did this, deciding that he liked Lena, and Gans was simply jealous. Throwing the bag back onto his back, Leo decided it didn't make any difference. He promised himself that sooner or later he would kill Gans anyway. A few days later, Leo went to the market, wanting to sell his goods. The man put a handful of coins in his palm, and the guy was surprised that that was all. The seller gloomily said that such prices are now, and in general, this is still generous, considering that not everything is well dried. Leo slammed the table loudly, returning the coins and took the offered goods. The seller shouted after him that he would not find such payment from anyone, but the guy did not listen to him. Leo didn't want to agree to such a low price the first time. Fortunately, after several attempts, he found a merchant who offered a fair reward. Returning home, Leo met Gans, who waved warmly when he met. Gans noted that the guy was early today. Leo noticed that he too, and asked where the others were. Gans waved his hand imposingly, answering that, as he knows, you have to walk around before you sell everything. Leo thought that this was not surprising. The dried meat that his father makes is always of the highest quality, and there is always a demand for it, and the rest will have to sweat before they can sell the goods. Gans suggested Leo go somewhere, and the guy asked where exactly. Gans just grinned slyly and replied that he would find out if he went. Leo believed that he was definitely up to something. Gans reported that he had found one very good establishment. Leo stopped in front of the entrance, looking at the eloquent sign. The guy froze in amazement, understanding exactly where Gans had led him. Turning sharply, the guy said that he was going home. Gans didn't understand why. Did they really come here in vain? He shouted after Leo that he had no luck with Lena anyway. Gans said that he understood that the guy was empty inside. He suggested that he simply imagine that Lena was in front of him and pick up a girl for himself. Leo turned around sharply and slammed his fist into the guy's face. Gans, without having time to react, flew back, quietly groaning in pain. The guy displeasedly asked why he got hit in the face. Instead of answering, Leo hit again, this time much stronger than the previous one. The guy angrily asked how he even dares to insult Lena. Succumbing to rage, Leo continued to beat the poor guy, unable to stop. The guy came to his senses only when he saw a message about the Citizen Killer achievement, which indicated that this would have tragic consequences. Leo sadly noted that he was planning to save money for the trip until spring. The man opened the door, displeasedly asking what was going on here. Noticing the blood, he became wary, looking from Gans to Leo standing next to him. The man immediately panicked, starting to shout "murderer," which made Leo immediately jump out of his seat and head away. The guy lost control of himself. He understood that for murder in the village, he would be executed on the spot if he was caught. Leo decided that he must leave the village as soon as possible. Noticing the sign for the forge, Leo knew he needed to grab the essentials. Having gathered himself and throwing on his cloak, Leo headed out to the city gates. Calmly passing by the guards, the guy breathed out a sigh of relief, surprised that he managed to get through the city gates. Suddenly, Leo heard the Lord's order, which ordered him to close the gate and not let anyone out. The guards immediately came to their senses, remembering that one had just passed. They ordered the guy to return immediately, but he did not listen to them. The men chatted cheerfully among themselves, telling some stories. One of them told how he crept up on a girl from behind. She was collecting herbs and did not notice him at all. Deciding that these were robbers, Leo realized that he needed to pass them unnoticed. The guy jumped over the fence, landing right in a pile of dry leaves. The men immediately became alert when they heard a rustling sound, but Leo had already hurried to hide. The robbers looked at each other, trying to understand what kind of crunch it was, but they saw no one. One of them suggested that perhaps it was just mice rustling. Another replied that he would check anyway, just in case. Leo managed to react before he was noticed, drawing a dagger and attacking the man. The guy asked another robber how many of them were there, deciding that the rest were out hunting. The man fearfully asked who he was and how he knew about this lair. Leo noted that they were much weaker than street robbers. They attack disenfranchised villagers and wanderers, so he doesn't do anything wrong. The guy asked what was in the box and whether there was food there. The robber replied that they had a lot of provisions and firewood. While Leo was busy examining the boxes, the man tightened his grip on his weapon, planning an attack. He rose sharply, swung his axe, and rushed at the guy. Leo managed to dodge, deftly striking back at the robber's unprotected areas. Having fallen to the ground, the man immediately began to ask for forgiveness, begging not to kill him. Leo noted that this mistake almost cost him his life. Taking out a dagger, he decided that such people could not be trusted. Having dealt with the robber, Leo decided to stop in Nemos. He tried to explain everything to his father, but in this century science is not developed, and because of the priesthood, the news that he was a murderer must have already spread throughout the area. Leo decided that it would be better for everyone if he ran away. He thought that he would need to sell the bandits' loot in order to get a horse. After that, he planned to start searching for Lena. The returning robbers immediately turned their attention to the stranger who killed their friends. A fight ensued, which, however, did not last long. After it was all over, Leo looked at his accomplishments. The carriage slowly moved forward along the snowy road. The girl sleepily opened her eyelids and the woman was glad that she woke up. She said that they had already arrived and Lena looked out the window in surprise. Previously, she had only heard about this place. It was here that the main church on the continent was located. The woman said that Lena would go to study on her recommendation. She noted that she would like to visit the girl more often, but she doesn't even know where she was assigned yet. Lena assured that everything was fine and she was grateful that she was taken here. The woman noted that Lena is a kind girl. She has good inclinations because she has diligently studied theology since childhood. Noticing the girl's enthusiastic look, the woman decided that she showed promise. Lena couldn't decide whether all this was true or whether she was just dreaming. She had already taken a couple of classes and got her own private room. The monk told her that the girl could only live in a single room. For Lena, this was an incredible blessing. The girl sat down on her knees, bowing in prayer, deciding that it was worth thanking God for everything. The priest Ophelia, who recommended her to the people in the village, the monk, Leslie, her parents. Lena suddenly opened her eyes wide, remembering Leo. She wondered how he was doing. The man looked up from what he was doing, looking at the guy who had entered. Leo silently poured the contents of the bag onto her table, causing the blacksmith to be greatly surprised. Having examined the things, he was dumbfounded and asked if he really wanted to sell all this. The man asked where his permission was, to which Leo briefly replied that he did not have it. So far, no one is looking for him, and the guy remembered that here you can take a sword even without permission. The man said that he only knows how to melt metal, and he did all this just like that, and since the guy would melt them anyway, the price was meager. Looking at the sword, the man suggested that the guy stole it from the family, to which Leo noted that then there would be a family engraving there. After thinking a little, the blacksmith asked the guy to name his price. Leo, without thinking for a long time, said that it cost 200 silver coins. The blacksmith immediately told the guy to get out, because even if he sells it legally, it's already too much. Even if he sells his soul, he won't get that much. Leo responded by saying that instead of silver coins, he was interested in a horse. The blacksmith said that you cannot buy a horse without permission. The guy noted that this is why he was turning to him and asked the blacksmith to buy him a horse. The man didn't understand why he should do this, but Leo said that if he did it, then he would get it all. The blacksmith replied that he only needed a couple of swords and some silver. He wanted to add something else, but then he just sighed heavily and agreed to the deal. The man said that he had a suitable horse and asked if the weakest one would do, but Leo said that he didn't need a completely useless horse. The blacksmith invited the guy to take a look and decide for himself. The man spoke with another stranger who was not very happy about this idea. A few moments later, the blacksmith briefly waved to Leo, beckoning him over. The stranger brought out one horse, saying that it was a good racer. He noted that, however, he has one leg shorter since birth, which is why no one buys him. Leo didn't understand why the blacksmith offered him only the worst. Approaching the horse, the guy asked if he could climb on. The man didn't mind. As soon as Leo climbed onto the horse, it reared up, dissatisfied with the riders. The guy tried to cope with the restive horse by pulling the reins. Leo noted that the gallop is indeed limping a little, but it's not that bad. After thinking a little, the guy said that he would probably take this horse after all. Along with spring came news about the war. The prince of the kingdom of Aston returned. This led to the kingdom of Aston and the kingdom of Belita to secretly prepare for war. The man asked if it was true that the Church of the Cross told people not to participate in the war. Saint Marielle answered briefly that yes. The man asked if the Sacred Kingdom did not maintain good relations with the Kingdom of Belita. The woman replied that the Sacred Kingdom also maintained contact with the Kingdom of Aston. The man noted that this was a barbaric nation and did not understand why priests could not be involved. He decided that the Sacred Kingdom was on the side of Aston, but Mariel objected that not all the priests of the Kingdom of Aston would remain aloof from the war. The man immediately said that this was unreasonable. There were more churches and priests in the Kingdom of Belita. He noted that their kingdom made the most donations. The man believed that they were unfairly attacked and noted that they were allowed to call upon priests when there was war in the north. The woman answered briefly that everything was God's will. God wanted the Church of the Cross and the Holy Kingdom not to interfere. The man believed that this was just a stupid excuse. He said that if God is interested in the petty feuds of his creations, he washes his hands of it. Mariel stated that she was simply following God's will. The man decided that the Church of the Cross had already spoken enough and the saint would not lie. He then ordered them to provide military supplies. The woman assured that they would get to the right side. The man noted that it would be great if she made sure that the supplies did not fall into the hands of the Kingdom of Aston. The Lord declared the neutrality of the Sacred Kingdom, and all priests of the Church are forbidden to take part in the war. The Church of the Cross worships 5 gods, the Supreme God, the Lord, and his 4 incarnations. The evil god Vinar is at the head of all atrocities. The woman saw a message that said that the time had come to put an end to the evil that had befallen our race. So do your duty. Human strength is valuable, but everything has its time and place. God took pity on you and placed 3 rivers on the continent, laying a winding path. The woman did not understand what it was and what God's will was leading to. 2 months have passed since Leo began his wanderings with his horse. The guy was wondering how Lena was doing now. He hoped that everything was fine with her. Remembering Chai Ha, the guy decided that she realized the meaning of independence earlier than he did. Leo shrugged it off, deciding that he needed to think about the present. He needed to cross the border somehow, but he was wanted. He needed to find someone he could leave with. The guy was surprised to hear in response that they couldn't go with him.